You and I are about to watch this kid completely fail his adventurer written test. Absolutely 0 points. The graders just cracked up. Just another clueless country bumpkin. For the practical exam, they tossed everyone straight into a massive forest. Archers, mercenaries, veteran fighters. Every single person immediately went after the targets they knew best. Then, our boy casually strolls back, dragging a massive red bear behind him. Not just a claw or a fang. He brought the entire carcass because he had no clue how to butcher it. Other candidates claimed he just drew his sword and boom, the bear instantly dropped. Nobody even tracked the strike. The whole room went dead silent, yet they still thought it was dumb luck. Just a lucky farm kid. For the final stage, the proctor set up a live fight. This absolute nobody against 2 official rankers at the exact same time. On one side, Eddie Markman, a genius from the top archer family ranked since he was 5 years old. Facing him is Owl Darcis, a brutal mercenary who literally crushed a criminal syndicate, taking down 7 bosses and their leader barehanded. Both rankers glared at the kid, super insulted they had to team up. And then the match kicked off. Eddie shot first. The kid casually dodged and rushed Owl so fast the crowd barely saw it. Parry's strikes an absolute blur of combat. Nobody could even process the speed. And suddenly our boy completely shattered the guard of Owl. The finishing strike was locked in. But Eddie grabbed the opening, firing an arrow straight at the back of the boy. Now watch closely. He slices the arrow out of the air without even slowing down. The room holds its breath, and then boom. A massively heavy, glowing green aura suddenly explodes, flooding the entire testing hall. Luke, the proctor who spent his whole life analyzing rankers without ever getting hyped, stared in pure shock. His only thought, this kid is an absolute monster, but nobody there actually knew why he even showed up. See, in this crazy universe, your ranking totally defines your social status and feeds your desires. This is a reality where raw power, cash, and social connections mean absolutely everything. And right here is where the epic journey of a boy from Tory Village kicks off. Meet Lo. This 16-year-old is grabbing firewood when a random guy begs for help. Suddenly, a girl drop-kicks the man, screaming at everyone to stop using Lo. That fierce girl is Yuna, also 16 and constantly fighting to protect the peace and quiet of her best friend. She yells that people treat him like a complete doormat just because he acts chill. But honestly, he is just too nice, and that is his ultimate weakness. Yuna suddenly begs him to run away with her, whispering about a secret escape route nobody else knows. But then a grumpy old lady interrupts. She snaps that village rules strictly forbid leaving and immediately starts tearing into Yuna. Turns out it is her own grandma. She orders Yuna locked up for trying to bail. Seconds later, another villager asks Lo to fetch water, and our boy blindly agrees. They might be the only 2 teenagers in this entire place, but their personalities are total opposites. A neighbor tells Lo to actually rest and live his own life, but nope. He sticks to his word and hauls off to get the water anyway. Lo feels massively indebted. When his parents passed away, he was left completely on his own. But the whole village treated him like blood, raising him, so he would never feel abandoned. That is exactly why he works so hard to pay them back. He truly loves these people. The adult literally starts sobbing and offers Lo a room in his house, but our boy politely declines. He admits the villagers mean everything to him. The outside world, he honestly could not care less about it. Meanwhile, Yuna is stuck in lockup with her grandma yelling at her. She argues back, asking why merchants can visit but they can never leave. You are probably wondering the exact same thing, right? Why stay trapped when the world is huge? Grandma cryptically replies that they are outcasts, dodging the real reason. She just throws out a vague line about time taking care of it all. Elsewhere, while Lo is filling heavy water buckets, Yuna suddenly calls his name. She already broke out of her temporary cell, an absolute breeze for her since she gets caught so often. She begs him to finally run away together, but Lo is terrified her grandma will find out and completely lose it. Yuna refuses to give up, insisting she needs to show him something major. They sneak through a broken fence straight into the wild woods. For the very first time, Lo stares at the real outside world, realizing his tiny village is basically nothing. Yuna looks at him and asks if he even knows the outside rules. She pulls out a stolen merchant book and reveals the truth. Out there, society runs entirely on a crazy system called ranking. Adventurers, doctors, everyone is ranked. Make the list, become a ranker. Trust me, you are going to love watching him crash this whole system. Alright, let's dive right into this crazy world where everything, weapons, food, money, and even strength is strictly ranked. Lo quickly realizes the outside world runs on a totally different system. Yuna drops a bomb. Her biggest dream is exploring the globe, battling tough rivals, and becoming a top-tier ranked adventurer. She is absolutely set on this path. Lo insists he cannot leave their home, but Yuna begs him to tag along on her epic journey. Our boy is totally lost. To win him over, she brings up the time they were 5 and a massive bird suddenly attacked her. Lo actually saved her life using nothing but a wooden club. He barely remembers the fight, but Yuna swears it went down exactly like that. That exact moment proves something huge. Despite acting clueless when Lo gets serious, he is crazy strong, way stronger than anyone else. Yuna promises he would absolutely shine out there. That is exactly why she wants him exploring this wild world right by her side. But Lo shuts it down. He just loves his home way too much, so Yuna declares she is flying solo, warning he might stay stuck here forever. Looking back later, Lo realizes he completely missed the fact that Yuna was actually leaving forever. He just sat outside, his mind spinning over those rankings and all her words. Now pay close attention here. He heads back, spots a weird floating island, and suddenly, boom, a massive laser beam fires right into the earth. Just like that, it vanishes. Terrified, he sprints home only to find his entire village completely wiped off the freaking map. Everyone, he loved his grandma, and even Yuna, all gone without a single trace. In that crushing silence, the words of Yuna and the villagers echoed in his head. They always promised he was never alone, that they were a forever family. Completely broken, Lo hits the dirt and just cries his eyes out. Suddenly, a random warrior speaks up from behind, cursing himself for arriving way too late. The dude walks up asking if he is from Tori village. He mutters that this whole mess is an absolute nightmare. Pulling the kid up, the warrior drops the harsh truth: the island is already gone. Lo instantly spams him with questions, but the guy cuts him off. He hands over a location slip bluntly, telling Lo to forget the village and move on. When our boy demands real answers, the warrior totally loses his cool and yells. He screams that the village is history and the past is dead. If Lo does not walk away right now, he will just be another useless victim. But those harsh words, they totally backfired. Right then, Lo knew he had to become the strongest. A flashback hits. His parents died in a landslide, leaving him completely abandoned as a kid. The entire village, but especially Yuna, stepped up to raise him. They were amazing people who never left anyone behind. There is zero chance he is just going to forget about them now. Furious, Lo screams that he will raid that flying island and drag everyone back home no matter the cost. You and I both know what is coming. Lo explodes with insane energy, shocking the man. This is Prana, the raw mental power of living beings. Everyone technically has it, but almost nobody knows how it works. Only absolute prodigies can control it on purpose. Normally, this mental power is totally invisible. But with massive power, it actually glows. The warrior connects the dots. This kid is the bauble survivor he was literally sent to protect. But honestly, he figured this crazy talented kid could survive alone in a few years anyway. So he tosses his own sword straight at Lo. He issues a challenge: if he wants to reach that island, he has to prove his worth first. The deal is simple. If Lo shows real potential, he will train him personally. He draws his blade, ordering the kid to kill. Green prana exploding, Lo charges and swings with everything. Since he is a total rookie, the strike is super basic, but the man feels insane pressure from the block. The raw waves of prana are just completely ridiculous. Shaking from the impact, the warrior realizes this kid is a total monster. Their clash is literally tearing chunks out of the solid earth. After calming down, the warrior drops some lore. That floating fortress is called the Island of the Gods. Usually it just hovers over the ocean and almost never shows up inland. Its sole purpose, erasing entire civilizations from existence. And this guy was actively trying to stop it. He theorizes anyone caught in that beam might actually be trapped on the island. Lo instantly asks if he would be there too if he touched it. The veteran quickly shuts that down, reminding him it is strictly a wild guess. Maybe his friends are alive but suffering. How does he reach them? Trust me, you will want to see him climb those adventurer rankings next. Alright, let's dive in. To explore those crazy unknown lands, you and I both know Lo needs that elite top 10 spot. Adal drops the reality check. The adventurer track has the most people and the top-tier guys, absolute terrifying monsters. The Island of the Gods is literally number 1 on the danger list. Reaching it means hitting that top 10 rank. The knight asks point blank, "Are you really doing this?" Everyone knows nobody comes back alive from that place. Lo's answer, a cold instant yes. Hearing that Adal decides training starts right here, right now. The knight makes a promise. 1 full year of personal brutal sword training from him. Once that year is up, the kid is completely on his own to climb the wild adventurer rankings using those basics. He finally introduces himself as Adal Rank 1 Knight. Right then, Lo shakes hands with humanity's absolute strongest warrior. Adal gives one final warning: no mercy from here on. Lo was the only guy to ever leave a scar on his chest. And man, the training that followed, pure nightmare. Don't blink because this part is hard to watch. Blisters, bursting muscles, tearing bones crushed, and fluids dripping from literally everywhere. From that day forward, Adal never mentioned the Island of the Gods again. The message was clear: figure the rest out yourself. That silence only fueled Lo's hope. He just knew the people of Toki were still breathing out there. He kept grinding, holding on to that theory. Why did the village vanish? To get those answers, hitting the adventurer peak was his only option. One crazy year of non-stop hell later, he was finally ready. He thought back to Yuna wanting to be a ranked adventurer. She dreamed of the outside, and he never thought he'd be the one making the journey first. Now he carried her dream on his back. He leveled up insanely this past year as the strongest knight's disciple. His insane adventure to the Island of the Gods, officially starting now. Cut to the Valor Kingdom, right in the capital city of Trakista. Down in the appraisal branch, an assistant snaps a boy named Luke awake. He spent all night obsessively checking the rankings again. She gives him an earful. As an appraiser, he seriously needs to look after his health. Unlike her doing basic desk work, he actually decides the ranks. Appraisers get shipped worldwide just to analyze everyone's combat skills. They need massive knowledge and totally fair judgment to rank everyone's true power and standing accurately, meaning they face crazy tests. It's easily one of the toughest jobs out there, saved only for the hand-picked elite. But even as an appraiser, Luke is rock bottom right now. He's got to grind hard to rank up and hit his goals. The cheat code for appraisers. Become the exclusive agent for some super talented ranker. Fastest way up. Problem is, Luke still hasn't found a single ranker he actually wants to back full-time. We get his frustration, he isn't picky, but the current rankers are just incredibly boring. Back in the day, competition was wild. Now the top spots are basically locked behind huge walls. Being a total ranking addict, Luke knows updates are everything. He's desperate for a promising new star who can completely flip the system upside down. His assistant points out that this rookie star might just be in the room they're watching. It's already the third time this year they're hosting the Adventurer Ranking Registration Exam. Applicant numbers spiked like crazy since the Azaban Forest hit the danger rankings 2 months back. She notes there are tons of promising rookies in there, like old arcs. Low mercenary rank, sure. But he leads the Red Wolf group, a super promising newcomer from the countryside. Then there's Ed Marksman from the Archer lists. The Marksman family, absolute legends with a bow. His dad was ranked 2, brother is 7th. Even this young rumor says Ed's arrow speed is already hitting insane double digits. Plus a bunch of other solid candidates like a trade ranker and a tough sailor. Being a pro evaluator, Luke spots most of the heavy hitters with just one quick glance. He knows the adventurer rank is booming. Everyone wants in now that new crazy danger zones like that classified forest are popping up everywhere. But before they can finish, the sharp sound of a bell interrupts them. The assistant checks the noise, and trust me, you'll love this. Lo is registering while she explains how the evaluation department runs everything. This crew sends evaluators nationwide to properly validate every single achievement from the ranked members. While these ranking updates can happen absolutely anywhere, let's jump into this hilarious manhwa. Our clueless hero strolls up to the official agency to register. He slaps down the cash, fills out the boring paperwork, and waits patiently with his new registration number. But Luke and the receptionist are completely stunned. This guy literally has zero clue what the evaluation department even is. Ignoring his massive red flags for now, Luke steps in to help the secretary finish up the paperwork. It's finally time. The adventurer ranking exam kicks off with 3 brutal phases, written practical and a secret final test. Your total score decides your fate. The good news, failing one section isn't the end. A huge score later can totally save your life, so keep pushing. Rules set, the rookies tackle the written test. But it's an absolute nightmare. The questions are ridiculously hard and cover insanely broad topics, breaking everyone's brains. 2 agonizing hours pass and the lady calls time. Pencils down. She drops the news. The practical exam starts in 2 hours. While everyone takes a breather, the stressed secretary grabs the massive pile and begs Luke to help grade them. Now watch this. She checks our hero's test with total dread, realizing he got absolutely every single question wrong. Luke is super annoyed grading these clueless country bumpkins. Fast forward 2 hours, and the practical test begins, basically a chaotic treasure hunt. Everyone gets a checklist. Bring back specific items on the form, and you score a set number of points. The goal is simple: hunt down the highest value loot possible. Just one catch, 0 player versus player combat allowed. Everyone has different gathering skills, so they immediately sprint like absolute maniacs into the woods. Watching closely from afar, Luke and the secretary predict a 50% pass rate. From their movement alone, this batch looks way more prepared. Still, nobody really impresses the picky Luke until they get interrupted. A smug kid pops up with rare regal ore, becoming the absolute first to score. Feeling cocky, he tries to quit right there, assuming 1 ore is enough, but the staff hints he should keep hunting for a better rank. Right on cue, another dude runs in super salty because he really thought he finished first. He bagged a fluid feather worth 180 points. But a tough mercenary nearby just laughs, mocking him for flexing a basic bird feather. The boy fires back, bragging that those birds fly 500 kilometers per hour. You literally can't even see them normally. And just like that, the most pointless rivalry ever begins. I know what you're thinking, ego trip, right? But their pathetic argument completely stops when our hero casually drags an entire massive bear inside. He casually admits he carried the whole corpse because he had no clue how to harvest its gallbladder, a crazy 300-point item. Jaws literally drop. Did this clueless guy just solo a monstrous red bear? Luke is suspicious. How on earth did he identify a rare red bear after bombing the written test so spectacularly? Our guy shrugs and answers simply, "These things are basically pests in his village." So he knows them way too well. The other trainees back up his insane story. They admit they blinked and missed it. He just drew his sword and boom, the beast was instantly wiped out. An hour passes. Everyone groups up down in the underground arena for the finale. Luke stares them down. Who is the biggest threat to an adventurer? He drops the hard truth: it's always beasts, and especially other humans. Exploring the wild means stepping into lawless territory. Out there, cutthroat bandits and greedy pirates are waiting to end you. Because of that brutal reality, the final trial is a straight-up player versus player brawl. Luke tells everyone to chill out. It's strictly just to test their raw combat skills. He kept it a total secret so nobody would try sabotaging the practical gathering phase. Right away, some massive dude talks trash to the mercenary, calling him a loudmouth bully who only found a rock. The big guy rushes in, but the mercenary calmly blocks and slams his sword pommel into his face, dropping him instantly. The secretary easily accepts that total knockout win. Trying to fight back was pure stupidity anyway. As a third class, that mercenary is terrifying. Luke steps up to arrange a very special matchup. A few rounds later, match number 8 is officially announced. Eddie the archer and the badass mercenary will team up to fight our clueless hero. They feel incredibly insulted by the 2-on-1 setup. But trust me, you and I know Luke is right. This rookie is an absolute monster. Stick with me. Watch these two fighters step up to our hero. The mercenary introduces himself as Owl Darcis, head of the Red Wolf Squad. Just last year, his crew became absolute legends by completely wiping the Camor Mafia off the criminal tier list. Rumor says this young leader crushed 7 executives and the big boss completely solo. As for the kid, that is Eddie Markman, the prodigy heir to the legendary Markman archer bloodline. Trained from birth by his dad, the former number 2 archer in the world. Eddie literally hit the official tier lists at just 5 years old. An absolute prodigy. And right now, both of these elite fighters are staring down our completely unknown but insanely overpowered young guy. The second the match starts, Markman instantly fires an arrow, but our main character easily dodges rushing Owl to spark a massive sword clash. They trade rapid-fire blows, blocking and striking at lightning speed. It is so ridiculously fast that nobody else can even track their movements. At one point, our hero forces Owl Darcis back, exposing his guard to land a clean hit on his chest. Spotting the opening, Eddie immediately snipes another arrow right at him. But incredibly, our guy slices the arrow straight out of midair with his blade. The attack fails, leaving the entire room in absolute jaw-dropping shock. Nobody has ever seen this guy before, but they all start wondering. He has to be a top-tier knight. That is when our hero realizes his enemies are actually ranked in completely different combat categories. Markman is ranked 402 for archers, while Owl Darcis sits at 753 for mercenaries. Realizing this, our hero casually announces that beating them both guarantees him a 3-digit rank. Now watch this closely, you are going to love this part. He suddenly unleashes an absurd aura flooding the hall. Luke realizes it is pure prana, dense enough to literally see. Markman tries acting tough, claiming that the tier lists are not just about professions. And in the sniper rankings, which track pure precision, he actually holds position 78. But right as he readies his bow to shoot, the kid just suddenly collapses to the floor, instantly defeated. Owl Darcis is totally paralyzed. He did not even see the strike that dropped his partner. Then, our swordsman slowly walks forward, radiating a terrifying green prana. In a flash, our hero vanishes and teleports right behind him. Feeling that freezing blade against his throat, Owl Darcis immediately surrenders the match. He nervously explains he has a job later and really refuses to end up knocked out like Eddie Markman. He openly admits our guy is a total monster, wondering who he actually is. The entire room is completely speechless. He just soloed 2 3-digit rankers. Officially, the system announces candidate number 3 as the absolute winner. Immediately, Luke sprints over to his terminal, opening up the exclusive evaluator's database of rankers. He pulls up 17-year-old Lo Tulie's profile, noticing he has 0 previous combat records. This perfectly matches his backstory about living in a remote village. It also confirms he is not some wanted criminal or crazy dark cult member. You and I know, he just hit the jackpot right. Luke feels the exact same way, rushing over to beg this hidden talent to hire him as an exclusive appraiser. He begs Lo to join him, but instantly realizes every other appraiser had the exact same brilliant idea. They are all swarming the swordsman now. For a split second, Luke thinks he missed his chance, regretting not digging into the guy's background before making his pitch. But plot twist, our hero has absolutely no clue what an exclusive appraiser even is, so Luke steps up. He explains that an exclusive appraiser is basically a personal manager for one ranker, constantly updating their combat stats on the fly. Normally, adventurers have to wait ages for the appraisal department to send official staff. But with your own appraiser, updates happen instantly anywhere. It is a massive cheat code for traveling adventurers who want to climb the ranks fast. Plus, these exclusive appraisers always hold the freshest inside information. So if Lo wants to speedrun the tier list, getting a personal appraiser is mandatory. Hearing this pitch, our guy sets one crazy condition. He asks if any appraiser in the room can actually push him straight into the top 10 global adventurer rankings. The other appraisers immediately sweat and back off. They admit pure sword skills alone simply cannot reach that high. Unfazed by their excuses, our hero just turns his back and starts walking away. But Luke sprints right after him, completely desperate. Yelling out to Lo, the young guy demands to know why hitting that specific top 10 matters so much. Our hero bluntly says, it is none of his business. But Luke stubbornly refuses to drop it. He boldly declares he will become his exclusive appraiser and force him to reach that goal. Lo instantly rejects him, saying he will not drag a literal child into mortal danger. Luke claps back, reminding him he is an official appraiser first. Still, Lo stands his ground. He strictly refuses to hire anyone, absolutely refusing to involve innocent bystanders in his own dangerous secret mission. Then Luke yells his own mission. Trust me, you want to see what happens next. Let's dive right in. He had a mission he would trade his own life to finish. And that is exactly why he needed Lo on his team. That raw intensity, it instantly reminded our swordsman of the exact same burning ambition he felt a year ago, back when he set out for the island to save everyone. Seeing the pure determination in the kid, he finally caved. He admitted he also had some massive unfinished business to handle himself. Luke officially introduced himself right then and there, swearing to guide our guy straight to the absolute top of the rankings. Totally convinced, Lo Tulie shook hands to seal the deal. Next thing you know, they hit up this fancy room Luke had already rented as their temporary base. Our hero was totally impressed by his skills, but Luke just smirked, bragging that booking the place was basically child's play. The rookie appraiser boldly claimed he would prove his worth in just 1 week. He even promised Lo would soon be begging to keep him around exclusively. Luke could not help but notice something funny. Lo was an absolute beast in combat, but utterly clueless outside of a fight. Not long after that, the official test results dropped. Lo secured rank 2,728. Luke hyped him up for passing the crazy registration test, swearing that landing in the 2000s was honestly a massive flex. Lo, on the other hand, completely bummed out. He totally expected triple digits. I mean, he literally just crushed 2 guys at that level, but Luke explained the adventurer rankings are completely packed, making the competition ridiculously brutal. He pointed out that no matter how overpowered you are, the system limits your starting position. But watch closely here. Lo had some other insane stats, like 58th place in sword speed. According to the appraisal team, this specific stat showed off his true monster-level potential. Luke kept going, breaking down how those 2 opponents also held high spots in completely random categories. Old Arcs ranked high in cleaning intel and reliable boss lists. Meanwhile, Eddie Markman rocked sniper recon and wait for it mushroom cultivation rankings. Having multiple quirky rankings makes landing jobs way easier, so he pushed Lo to register for a bunch of extra ones. But Lo coldly shut that down, absolutely 0 odd jobs. Luke caught on right away. The only thing Lo actually cared about was rushing into the top 10 as fast as humanly possible. Why? To get straight to the island of the gods. It was literally the one exclusive VIP privilege given to the top 10 adventurer ranks. Lo promised to drop his backstory after their trial run. Luke agreed to spill his own secrets too, making it a completely fair trade between the two. Then Luke confessed he had a crazy tough reason to explain to a rookie he was secretly investigating the dark, shady side of the rankings. Completely curious, he asked where that broken sword power actually originated. Because skills like that, you absolutely do not learn them overnight. Lo casually drops that he trained under a knight named Adel. You and I both know who that is, right? The literal #1 knight in the world. Lo just nodded, confirming he was indeed his student, but only trained with the guy for a single year. Luke was utterly speechless. This was a massive bombshell. Adel famously refused to teach anyone, rejecting countless desperate training requests over his entire career. Everyone assumed Adel was saving his legendary techniques to hand down to the absolute highest-ranked prodigy of the newest generation. Because of that rumor, thousands of knights were sweating blood, trying to climb up desperately, hoping the master would finally choose them. Luke laughed, saying the other knights would completely riot if they found out some random kid inherited the skills of Adel. Lo awkwardly rubbed his head, admitting he never actually believed his master was the strongest human alive, despite him bragging about it constantly. Luke had to remind him that being #1 literally meant being an absolute god. But then, Lo casually dropped an even bigger nuke. He actually beat a doll in a duel once. The legend himself even admitted Lo was the very first person to successfully land a clean hit. Luke practically short-circuited hearing this insane lore dump coming from a guy with zero facial expressions. He quickly scanned the global rankings. Since the name Tulie was literally nowhere, he directly asked if it was a fake alias. Lo explained his culture just didn't use last names at all. It was actually Adal who told him to use the name Tulie so he could sneak onto the island of the gods. The master warned him the risk would be absolutely massive, but if he survived, the answers he needed would naturally follow. Lo firmly added it wasn't a disguise, it was the name of his precious family. With the assessment finally over, Luke pulled off his hat. Classic anime twist incoming. Lo suddenly realized the guy he was talking to was actually a woman. She was incredibly annoyed he hadn't noticed way earlier, but Lo scrambled to apologize. Satisfied he finally caught on, Luke treated her clueless new client to some coffee, officially kicking off this totally chaotic long journey together. With the alliance locked in, they started brainstorming a foolproof strategy to speedrun Lo straight to the top 10 adventurer ranks. So, what do you and I make of all this? To rank up fast, he needs huge achievements. And Luke says, step 1 is tackling insane missions. Let's jump into this one. She explains that adventurers are in high demand for gathering and tracking missions, making them the absolute perfect starting point for beginners. He could snag these quests through the main assessment department or a guild. To make things super easy, she hands him a rank cell, a nifty little quest-finding gadget. Luke even offers him unlimited access to this device, but only if she becomes his exclusive assessor. Lo actually thinks it over. Then, he straight up asks if there is a single mission that could skyrocket his rank immediately. So Luke pulls up the absolute hardest missions they have, showing off their massive ranking points. Without even blinking, Lo points right at the top one. A 6-skull difficulty quest right in a level 7 danger zone. The goal: grab the legendary treasure from the completely sunken temple of Luciana. The assessor shuts that down instantly. She tells him point blank that his current level is way too low and he needs to trust her expertise. She insists this dungeon is pure suicide, warning him that he would drop dead before ever seeing a rank up. But our boy just stares her dead in the eye and says he's trying anyway. His ultimate goal is the island of the gods, the literal #1 danger zone. If he backs down here, he will never make it there. Realizing this kid is way more stubborn than she ever expected, Luke tries to scramble for a backup plan to stop him. Now pay attention, because right on cue, a guy in a sharp suit walks up asking if there's trouble. Luke recognizes him immediately. She introduces the guy as Loud Broward, an absolute powerhouse, sitting at rank 11 in the ultra-competitive general rankings. Lo instantly knew this guy was a total monster, just like Adal warned. He is an elite hunter. If he moves up just one single rank, he earns the right to challenge the dreaded island of the gods. Seeing her chance, Luke begs Loud to help put this stubborn rookie in his place. But talking won't work, so they march straight to the arena. Once inside the rank 11, Big Shot grabs a basic training weapon that looks way too flimsy for him. Our protagonist tries to do a polite introduction, but Loud completely shuts him down. In the adventurer rankings, nobody cares about your manners. Loud points out that Luke recently updated the entire ranking system. He praises her massive knowledge and her crazy dedication to getting the classifications exactly right, which is super rare for a guild evaluator. So since she asked nicely, he promises to go totally all out and teach this kid a lesson. Just standing there, our hero feels the insane pressure radiating from Loud. He freezes up, completely terrified of getting skewered by that spear. You and I know how this usually goes, right? Luke thinks it's a perfect reality check for the kid, but Lo already gets it. He flashes back to his village, being stolen by the gods. With zero hesitation, left rank 2,728 sprints straight at rank 11. He swings his blade, but Loud easily blocks with the cheap spear. Then Lo unleashes a massive aura slash which misses completely. Load immediately notices the kid pumping pure prana into the sword for one huge strike. He is even flowing that energy through his limbs for a massive speed boost. That's Sword Saint style. That is a strictly guarded secret technique. He is genuinely shocked a random kid pulled it off. Shaking off his surprise, Loud snaps back into the fight, catching the hero trying a sneaky attack from behind. Lo goes for the backstab, but Loud effortlessly dodges by just flinging his spear backward. Moving and attacking with zero panic, Loud realizes something crazy. This little kid actually has a way larger prana pool than he does. As they blur around the arena in an explosion of glowing energy, rank 11 suddenly demands to know Lo's race. Lo is completely confused. But Loud explains that you don't just naturally grow a prana flow like that. He smirks, warning the boy that he is going to beat the truth out of him. Guessing the kid can also use magic, Loud slams his spear into the dirt and starts chanting. The furious horse of the crags crosses mountains, gasping for air. Sunlight makes the sacred tree bloom again. The turbulent waters clash and peace shatters into a million shards. Jumping high, he fires off a wind tribe enchantment. He literally tells Lo to block or die as a barrage of spiritual spears rockets downward. Our guy tries to block with his prana-infused sword, but Loud yells that a normal blade cannot stop a high-level enchantment. The hero manages to dodge most of them, but takes a few heavy spectral hits to the gut. Pain flaring, he remembers Adel's advice. His prana control is still super rough, but through battle, those secret techniques will finally start clicking into place. And trust me, you are going to want to see this. The shimmering blade. Let's dive right into this crazy fight. Mimicking the #1 knight, our boy blasts a super fast gale of prana straight at his enemy. But Lud just calmly spins his spear and completely cancels out the attack. Seizing the opening, our main character lunges in with a low slash. A strike so crazy fast you couldn't even track it with your naked eye. Even then, Lud easily dodges and strikes back, hurling an energy spear that absolutely sends our boy flying. He admits the kid's got guts, but the power gap is just massive. One snap of his fingers and boom, Lud summons thousands of glowing magical spears right out of thin air, all locked straight onto our hero. Warning Lo to never sleep on the official adventurer rankings, he drops the absolute devastating attack. Staring down thousands of spears raining from the sky, our boy realizes it's totally game over. He's lost. With our hero completely wiped out on the floor, the announcer officially crowns Lud Broward as the winner. Luke comments that Lo definitely understands the insane power gap between them now. Lud turns and asks if she honestly believed in the kid surviving this long. She shrugs, admitting she actually did, especially since the guy is literally the disciple of Adel. Lud then drops a massive reveal. The second he saw that high-speed slash, he immediately recognized the legendary Sword Saint style. And honestly, he's wondering how the heck that's even possible. Now pay close attention here. The Sword Saint style is an insanely overpowered technique passed down strictly to elite knights for generations. So, a random adventurer kid inheriting it, totally mind-blowing. Honestly, to a proud knight, it basically looks like he stole something sacred right from their hands. Because of that, Luke thinks he really needs to avoid picking fights with other knights from now on. You know, playing it smart so he doesn't get utterly destroyed and eliminated for good. If he just acted like a proper knight, problem solved. But nope, that's impossible, because this guy is dead set on being an adventurer. Actually, the real reason Luke believed in Lo went beyond just that fancy sword style. It was simply because he said he landed a hit, and she completely believed him. Lud basically laughs it off, thinking it's straight up impossible for a low-level kid to land a strike. But Luke, even with her doubts, she wouldn't rule it out. She knows Lo just isn't the type to lie about something like that. Lud nods, agreeing that definitely makes sense. After all, besides that wild sword style, the intense prana glow the kid gave off was honestly super impressive. Luke adds that he also possesses enchantments. Hearing that Lud openly admits if the kid actually used them, he might have totally won. Right in the middle of all this chatter, a random memory from the past suddenly flashes straight through our hero's mind. A beautiful woman is singing in his house until an angry old lady bursts in yelling about the poem and blaming the boy for keeping them totally trapped in that awful situation. The woman then softly apologizes to Lo. Snap back to reality. He wakes up in a hospital bed, super confused after dreaming about his weirdly hidden past. I know what you're thinking, just a nap. Well, Luke explains he's in the infirmary and slept all day. The doctor said it was massive, built-up mental exhaustion. Still totally groggy, he barely understands what's happening. Luke gently asks if maybe he's been pushing himself way too hard in his daily training. Looking back at the absolute madness he just survived, the protagonist admits she's totally right. Getting serious, Luke says she has something important to share and directly asks if he knows what enchantments actually are. Our clueless boy says no. So she breaks it down. Enchantments are a super unique way of using prana. Naturally, only a few specific races can do it, though some top-tier adventurers eventually master the skill too. Curious, our boy immediately asks if Lud was one of those special cases. Luke nods. She explains Lud is a warrior from the Broward tribe, a hardcore race, living in swamps, completely obsessed with raw combat and hunting. And because their battle techniques are passed down orally through wild poems, everyone started calling them enchantments. Plus, since the whole thing is heavily genetic, trying to learn it as a grown adult is basically impossible. Remembering Lud's insane power, our boy is genuinely mind-blown. But then Luke drops an absolute bombshell. Our hero also has enchantments inside him. She leans in and asks if he even realizes what kind of power he's holding. Shrugging, the kid just guesses it must be something super powerful, like a massive cheat code for climbing the ranks. Looking super confident, Luke tells him he has true high-rank potential. And that's exactly why she handpicked the absolute perfect mission for his current lower rank. The job, a creepy investigation straight into the Azaban forest right in a massive hazardous zone. Officially, it's just an ecological survey. But come on, this job is definitely not about petting cute animals. The dark truth, a bunch of people recently went missing there. Worse, the adventurers who took this exact same mission completely vanished into thin air. Luke explains that initially only the low-ranked rookie adventurers were vanishing inside that spooky forest, but things got completely out of hand when a veteran ranked in the top 800 disappeared without a single trace. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this. If Lo solves this mystery, he'll instantly jump 200 spots up the rankings. Let's jump right in. Massive risks mean massive rewards. Louis accepted the mission instantly. Luca made sure he knew she only vouched for him because she totally trusted his fighting skills. After registering the quest at the guild, she dropped a serious warning about the Azaban forest. This place is packed with protected creatures and off-limits restricted areas. She confidently promised that everything would go smoothly with her around, though he still needed to stay completely on guard. So our boy asked about breaking the rules. Luca instantly shot back that his precious adventurer rank would absolutely tank. She made it clear that destroying ecosystems or failing missions ruins your reputation, no matter how ridiculously strong you are. The whole system runs on pure credibility. Fired up, she announced this mission was a brand new chapter for them. This was step 1 for skyrocketing straight up those official adventurer rankings. Pushing this whole teamwork angle hard, she finally convinced our guy to pack up and leave. They headed straight for the Azaban forest together. But deep inside that exact same forest, some guy was mercilessly executing another adventurer. He coldly muttered that the evaluation department literally gave zero cares about pathetic weaklings like him. In his mind, climbing the ranks like a normal person was a total joke. This mysterious villain walked right up to a unicorn. He knew snagging just one of those insanely valuable horns would instantly rocket him into the 3-digit ranking tier. He smirked, realizing brute force alone does not guarantee a high rank. The whole system basically feeds on the weak and unjust. Meet Rosso Cruel, the number 7 smuggler out there. Now pay attention here, he refused to abandon such an unbelievably perfect hunting ground. His ultimate goal, breaking the top 100. And his next victim was already chosen, Dalcan Iris, adventurer number 672. Back at the entrance, a knight scanned Louis, confirming his status as adventurer number 2728. Once cleared to enter, he casually asked just how many people were actually ranked. The guard mentioned about 30,000 total, with 20,000 active right now. Then she straight up pointed out his stats looked way too strong. She explained that someone's official adventurer rank rarely matches up with their other skills. Like a guy could sit at 4 digits for adventuring but easily hit 3 digits in some other crazy specialty. But she added that pushing your adventurer rank higher naturally pulls up all those other tier placements too. Louis quietly realized his swordsmanship was already chilling in the 2-digit tier. No wonder he completely crushed every single opponent during his exam, but getting even stronger. That was literally the only thing running through his head. Right on cue, Luca announced the real journey was starting. They finally stepped into Azaban Forest official danger zone number 48. Almost instantly, Louis felt something completely off. One quick look around and he felt the heavy danger. It was that creeping instinct only true veteran adventurers ever managed to sense. A normal person would walk right into a trap, which is exactly why these danger zone rankings exist. Luca mentioned this forest hit the danger list because a massive outbreak of demonic beasts erupted right here just 2 months ago. You and I both knew this was coming, right? Bizarre monsters suddenly attack, and Luca straight up tells Louis it is his turn. Not hesitating for a second, our hero swung his blade and started slaughtering the creatures. He jumped high, grabbed a massive monster bird right by its beak, and smashed it straight into the ground. Then booming with green prana, his gale slash wiped out everything else. He quickly remembered Adel, the absolute master who taught him gale. Our guy had memorized a few skills, but he definitely could not execute all of them. He thought maybe, just maybe, he could pull off the second move. Then boom, a blood orc, a notoriously high-ranking nightmare beast, suddenly blocked their path. Louis grinned, figuring this was the absolute perfect dummy to test Adel's second combat technique on. Erupting with an insane amount of prana, he activated the half-lotus technique and slammed the blood orc with a massive X-shaped slash. The devastating hit landed cleanly, but did absolutely zero damage. The beast just shrugged and prepped a counterattack. Classic comedy. Louis completely panicked, sprinting for his life while screaming that his move failed. He honestly believed it would work. Meanwhile, Luca just stood there, totally paralyzed, wondering where her so-called bodyguard was going. Running on pure adrenaline, they suddenly hit a dead end at a cliff edge. With zero time left, Louis scooped Luca right under his arms and leaped blindly over the edge. Despite the terrifying drop, they actually hit the ground completely unharmed. Still, a totally traumatized, Luca yelled at him for pulling something so ridiculously reckless without warning her. And that is our cue. Trust me, his master's crazy training habits are basically a lifestyle now. Let's dive right in. They finally hit the dead center of the forest to wrap up this crazy mission. Luke drops a flex. Since the Azaban forest became a hazard zone, she has already mapped out 80%. This remaining 20% pure nightmare fuel. A total monster nest that nobody ever dared to explore. Lo looks around, completely amazed. Between the wild, mystical creatures and glowing exotic plants, he admits he has never seen anything like this before. It hits him. This is what being a real adventurer feels like. Exactly the lifelong dream his sister Yuna always wanted. Suddenly, a bush rustles. Lo instantly draws his sword, ready to strike. But Luke grabs his arm, stopping him cold. It is just a wounded creature. Now she must figure out how to approach it safely. She realizes it is a royal horn. That is number 4 on the super rare, almost extinct monster list. Seeing the poor thing bleeding out, Luke decides to step in and help. She knows basic first aid to patch up Hunters and Lo, especially after Mr. Loud completely wiped the floor with him. Luke declares they are setting up camp right here. As an evaluation agent, there is no way she is ditching an injured beast. She gets all flustered, claiming saving the royal horn is strictly for ecological research. He totally shouldn't think she is picking an animal over him. So the two of them pitch a tent in the woods to chill. While everyone else sleeps by the campfire, Lo sneaks off to grind his Prana sword training. He swings hard, trying to blast a tree with his half-lotus technique. The Prana wave flies far but literally does 0 damage to the trunk. Completely exhausted and frustrated, he just flops onto the dirt. At this slow rate, he realizes he is never going to reach the legendary island of the gods. Now pay attention. Mr. Laud's cryptic words about his enchantments finally echo in his desperate mind. Lo sits down to meditate, racking his brain over it until he passes out. Sunlight smacks his face the next morning. Luke is already up, exhausted, since the wounded beast was thrashing around all night long. The little royal horn looks super stressed, growling at something in the shadows. Even with all that drama, it healed up fast thanks to Luke's treatment. Luke notes that baby beasts usually cling to people, but this one totally terrified. She bets someone actually hurt this poor thing on purpose. Proof, she points straight at its shattered horn, a classic nasty mark left behind by illegal poachers. She explains that these beast horns are basically sold as an absolute miracle cure. Because of that crazy demand, they got hunted down relentlessly until they became super rare. Even after the ban, rich buyers still want them. So poachers keep operating in the shadows. Black markets sell them like unicorn horns. Suddenly the beast snaps and lunges at Luke, but our boy steps in, blocking the horn perfectly. Spooked by the clash, the little beast bolts away. Luke instantly chases after it, panicking because the creature is definitely not fully healed yet. She yells that a royal horn has never been spotted in Azaban Forest before. Tracking it is basically mandatory for her ecological research. Lo dashes ahead too. Finding an exotic monster like this means the entire danger zone ranking gets a massive upgrade. Luke orders him to use stealth. The beast is stupidly fast and disappears fast, but Lo locks onto its tracks and stays right on its tail. You saw this coming, right? He is dashing through the trees when a sudden ambush stops him. The attacker steps out of the shadows, smirking and calling it a lucky hunting day. Lo parries instantly. Their swords violently clash together in a head-on power struggle. Mid-fight, Lo unleashes a massive Prana strike that barely misses. Seeing that crazy energy color, the guy absolutely panics, dropping his weapon and surrendering on the spot. Hold on. Lo recognizes that voice. He squints and spots a kid aiming a bow and arrow from a nearby branch. The realization hits him. It is Eddie and Owl, the exact same guys he fought at the academy. Fast forward to the next day, right during the official adventurer ranking registration. The receptionist asks for his path, and Lo confidently locks in the main adventurer ranking. By pure coincidence, Ed is also there, grabbing a mission, and the two bump into each other. Classic rival behavior. They just stare each other down in total silence, waiting to see who breaks first. Ed finally cracks. He asks if Lo found out anything about that overpowered swordsman who totally wrecked them. Lo admits the guy literally had 0 rank before that fight. Wild. Right. And that is where we leave it. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. Stick with me here. Ed admitted he was actually a total prodigy in the archery rankings, surprisingly. So naturally, getting absolutely destroyed by an unranked rookie completely shattered his massive ego. Meanwhile, in another spot entirely, Captain Owl was soaking up praise from his mercenary crew. He announced he finally registered for the adventurer ranks, making everyone cheer. His squad confidently bet he crushed the exam and totally bullied the other candidates. But Owl sighed and dropped the bomb. That didn't happen. He totally lost the fight. His crew completely refused to believe it. They swore he just held back to spare the guy. Because honestly, a top-tier mercenary with a 3-digit rank losing to a rookie impossible. Right then, Owl completely lost it. He smashed his fist down and shattered the table. He was absolutely furious that Lo Tulie completely ignored him. The kid treated him like dirt, using him as nothing more than a simple stepping stone. Fired up, he screamed that starting tomorrow their daily training was getting tripled. His crew was horrified. One girl quickly spoke up, suggesting they just take on new missions instead. But the captain coldly shot that down. The world was way bigger than they thought, and he was officially going back to hardcore training mode. Later on, while venting to Ed, Owl confessed that Lo completely crushed his fragile pride too. He never cared about the adventurer rankings before. But getting looked down on like that? Unacceptable. Since both guys already held high ranks in other fields, this defeat seriously bruised their egos. They compared stats. Ed was rank 6,725. Owl was 6,731. Shockingly, Lo, the man who beat them, was 2,728. Now pay attention. Being 4,000 ranks behind these two fools seriously thought catching up would be incredibly easy. Sharing the exact same goal, the duo teamed up for a mission and picked the dangerous Azaban forest. It was freshly marked as a high danger zone. Basically, the absolute perfect place to grind experience points. That is exactly how they bumped into Lo. Back in the present, Lo yelled they would chat later and instantly bolted off into the woods. Sheathing his blade on the run, he explained the royal horn was hurt. Ed and Owl instantly realized his plan. He wanted to save the rare beast from those illegal hunters. They chased right after him, matching his insanely fast pace. Mid-sprint, the archer explained his trick. To move this fast, you had to kick off rocks and use the rough terrain to boost your jump speed. Watching closely, our hero instantly copied the footwork, suddenly accelerating his run to a crazy new level. You and I didn't see this coming. Another wild beast had wrapped the royal horn in its massive tongue. Without missing a beat, they drew their weapons. Lo dashed in and delivered a razor-sharp slash to the monster's tongue, drawing blood. Knowing he couldn't step any closer, he quickly readied himself to unleash some long-range sword waves. But Lo stopped himself. If he fired those waves, the royal horn would get caught in the crossfire. Instead, he yells at Ed to make an opening. Without stopping his sprint, he commands the archer to snipe the beast right in the eyes. Ed locks on. He fires 2 rapid arrows and boom, direct hit straight into the monster's eyes. The beast screeches in absolute agony. Without pausing, Lo orders Ed to target its legs next. Meanwhile, our hero slides hard across the dirt, pulling his arm back. Channeling pure prana into his blade, he unleashes a massive energy-packed sword slash. At that exact second, Owl slices clean through a massive tree trunk, sending it crashing straight down. The heavy timber smashes into the purple beast, instantly finishing it off. Together, they finally saved the royal horn. Catching his breath, the captain smirks, claiming he is used to commanding subordinates. Naturally, Ed gets furious being called a sidekick. Annoyance aside, they both had to admit, Lo's sword skills were absolutely insane. Still, they figured sheer sword talent wasn't enough for the top 10. They realized that just slaying monsters wouldn't carry him up the ranks forever. Lo needed way more than just sword tricks to truly become a legend. A bit later, Luke finally runs up panting. She apologizes for the delay and frantically asks what on earth just happened. She admits she totally thought they were the poachers. Thank goodness it was just a massive misunderstanding they cleared up fast. Luke sighs in relief, so glad Lo actually used his words instead of just swinging his sword like an absolute maniac. She playfully threatens to tank their adventurer ranks before quickly laughing and saying she was only kidding. But she glares, warning them that next time they pull a stunt like this, the demotion is real. So what do you and I learn? Hearing that threat, the terrified boys promised they would be super careful. Stick with me here. You and I are watching Ed ask why Lo brought an evaluator just to climb the ranks faster. Owl totally disagrees, claiming that is basically like being spied on 24 hours a day. He is absolutely not a fan. He argues it just dumps extra chores on Lo, like cleaning duty, while constantly forcing him to risk his life for zero reason. Owl is convinced Lo is basically just a pawn being used for someone else's selfish gain. Lo asks why evaluators even care about his growth. Owl bluntly says it is literally their only path to a promotion by constantly updating rankings. Basically, fast-rising adventurers are just a super easy cheat code for evaluators to score quick promotions. He warns Lo to stay completely alert, claiming Luke is just using him as a stepping stone. Hearing this, Lo actually starts to doubt everything. He honestly wonders if she would pull something like that, since she just does not seem like the sneaky type. Right then, their chat gets totally cut off as Luke finishes scouting and happily declares the coast is clear. Suddenly, that giant horn monster walks over and rubs against her like a best friend. Clearly, this thing has zero personal space. Ed and Owl do not find this cute whatsoever, calling the massive beast completely ungrateful. But Luke explains the beast is acting out because those two are super intimidating. Plus, Lo gives off a terrifying aura without even trying. Luke smoothly changes the subject right there. Now pay attention to this. That defeated magic beast has been causing some incredibly wild trouble. She reveals nobody has seen this predator here before. Its natural habitat is freezing places with zero records of it existing inside the Azaban forest. That is exactly why she and Lo came out to this region for a scouting mission. Next, Luke asks why Ed and Owl are here. Owl casually mentions they grabbed a very similar scouting mission straight from the department. Luke is completely shocked, never expecting to see forest missions handed out to standard mercenaries and archers. She quickly realizes her presence probably influenced them to grab a dangerous mission just to rank up. Noticing the tension, she immediately flips the mood, telling Lo she has some incredibly important good news for him. His speed ranking just got a massive update. His sword technique was so ridiculously fast, she already requested to make it an official record. Luke proudly says this is all thanks to his technique. Lo actually hit the 26th spot on the speed ranking, combining a bunch of stats. He is super hyped, knowing his crazy technique is almost invisible to the naked eye, even if normal people think it looks pretty basic. Lo feels completely confident he crushed it, basically running on pure survival instinct. Totally amazed, he asks if Luke is always this awesome, and she immediately takes the chance to brag about boosting his rank. I know what you are thinking. Lo decides to be super honest here, slightly annoying Owl with a sudden confession. He straight up admits he is absolutely terrible at anything not involving his sword. Both guys instantly realize this kid has dumped his entire life into nothing but sword training. Lo explains that Ed totally saved him during the battle simply because he had zero clue how to actually fight as a team. Owl brags that his command instincts are perfectly natural. As a mercenary boss, he is constantly making plans so his crew stays alive. He explains that tactical formations, positioning, and picking who lands the final strike are absolutely crucial for attacking. Owl smirks and asks if Lo wants to learn this. He admits Lo is already a beast with a sword, but Lo desperately insists they teach him everything, knowing he needs these skills to survive. They agree to teach him forest movement, warning him that he absolutely must use all 5 of his core senses. Seeing that fiery determination, Luke feels incredibly proud of his growth and loves helping him. Despite the cute bonding moment, Luke is completely terrified by the illegal hunters and that weird demonic beast nearby. She feels a heavy, ominous vibe in the Azaban forest, deeply worried this crazy mission might totally overwhelm their team. Meanwhile, those 2 illegal hunters searching for the missing beast stumble right onto our main group. One of them, Iris, creepily notes that their fresh organs will sell for an absolute fortune. Even though these guys cannot match the beast, she arrogantly decides to capture them anyway. She sneers that anyone wandering into beast territory should fully expect to get ripped apart. Back with the heroes, Ed starts the lesson. He claims using sight, hearing, smell, and taste in actual combat takes some serious hardcore training. So what do you and I take from this? The forest is literally the ultimate training ground, with all those intense, wild smells. Stick with me here. Owl completely misunderstands the plan. Ed just smirks, joking that mercenaries like him only ever understand the sweet smell of blood. To prove it, Ed reveals he can sense every single animal nearby, all while keeping his prana flow super low. Basically, prana is this wild fluid energy. You focus it and boom, it sharpens one of your chosen senses. Feeling hyped, Lo focuses his own prana directly on his surroundings. But suddenly, boom, he blasts out this massive energy wave, leaving everyone completely shocked. His prana explodes outward, sharpening all 5 senses at once. He instantly spots everything, even an illegal hunter hiding right up in the trees. Lo instantly grabs his sword, ready to strike, shouting a warning to Luke about the stalker. But mid-sentence, bam, he gets blasted by an absolutely devastating out-of-nowhere punch. The hit is insane. It sends Lo flying right through multiple trees before he crashes down into the dirt, completely knocked out from the impact. The illegal hunter steps out loudly, complaining about whoever was leaking disgusting prana all over the place. Now pay attention here, that wild energy leak is exactly how he tracked them down. Instantly, our mercenary and archer draw their weapons ready for an all-out war, but Luke stops them. He drops a bomb that is Dalsin Iris rank 672. Everyone freezes. A 3-digit rank adventurer. That means this guy is way out of their league. Luke knows his crazy history, explaining that Dalsin was actually about to hit a 2-digit rank, until a major crime ruined his score. Right then, Rosso shows up praising Dalsin for his insane speed. Dalsin totally notices the appraiser standing there, but he has zero clue who she is. She, however, instantly recognizes Rosso as the black market merchant, sitting at rank 776. Hearing this, Dalsin smirks, impressed she actually knows her stuff regarding the underground crime rankings. He explains that this dark tier list completely depends on how severe a criminal's actions actually are. He mentions the assassin and thief boards, adding that higher ranks usually mean hardcore drug addictions too. Dalsin adds that crime ranks are basically fan-made. In this crazy world, not every tier list comes straight from some boring official institution or government body. In fact, high-quality street rankings often get bought up by actual government agencies, as long as they stay ethical, of course. Meanwhile, hardcore fans keep the underground ones updated. Suddenly, they spot their target. Unicorn Luke steps right in front of Dalsin. Blocking him from the royal horn, he demands to know why he partnered with a criminal. "You saw this coming, right?" the adventurer replies instantly. "He does it for the money." This absolutely floors Luke. A guy with Dalsin's godlike skills could easily make massive bank playing fair. But Dhalsim laughs. Money is not his only goal here. He has two big reasons for this shady alliance. One to sell, one to buy. He taunts the appraiser asking if she knew rankings could be purchased. That nasty little hint makes Luke absolutely furious, but Dhalsim could not care less. Pissed off Owl swings his heavy sword, but Dhalsim casually catches the bare blade using just 2 fingers. Ed fires a lightning-fast arrow next, yelling that they patrol this forest, and a total menace like Dhalsim is not walking away today. Realizing he has to clean up this mess the old-fashioned way, Dhalsim gets super irritated. He violently erupts with overwhelming purple prana, his muscles bulging out to insane sizes. He winds up a soul-crushing punch at the frozen mercenary, who literally thinks it is game over. But right at that second, Lo jumps back into the fight, radiating an absolutely massive prana aura. Our boy shoves his sword forward and blocks the fatal punch head-on. The two fighters glare intensely, both demanding to know who the other is. But Lo proves superior, his wild energy straight up overpowering Dhalsim. The clash turns into an epic magic showdown. With green prana flaring everywhere, Lo charges the enemy, hard actually forcing him to step back. Luke frantically asks if Lo is okay, which he confirms. Lo then asks if this guy is the illegal hunter, and the appraiser nods. Yep, that is the royal horn poacher. Confirmation secured. Lo unleashes a massive green prana hurricane skill, blasting it straight at his enemy. But Dhalsim just crosses his arms, tanking the fierce hit behind a thick wall of purple energy. He is impressed a kid uses prana. And trust me, we are just getting started here. Alright, let's jump back in together. Lo realizes his attacks are doing absolutely 0 damage to Dhalsim. Then it hits him. A warning from Aldo. Be careful around anybody using this intense prana. Aldo had explained Lo was a weird exception. Usually you have to be an absolute master with weapons to unlock this hidden power. Thinking back, Lo remembers the key detail from Aldo. Prana is not just energy, it is obsession. Basically, if you can use prana, you are definitely an absolute master at something very specific. He flashes back to a brutal mountain climb with Doug. That was pure torture for him, but remembering that struggle gets him totally hyped up. He readies his stance to face the enemy, while Luke shouts out Dhalsim's insane stats. 12th in boxing, 48th in beast taming, 19th in grip strength, and 7th in weightlifting. With world-class strength like that, she screams for him to stay far away. Keep fighting from a distance. But Dhalsim gets totally annoyed. His stats got leaked like that, declaring he will crush the girl first. The dude literally grabs a massive tree and without any effort just rips it right out of the dirt using his prana. Watch closely, he holds the trunk with one arm and chucks the entire thing straight at Luke. Boom. Lo completely clutch, jumping in fast and slicing the huge tree right in half with a powerful glowing sword aura. Luke gets super worried, knowing a crazy intense defense like that drains his energy super fast. Watching from the sidelines, old man Rosso spots something strange about the boy's prana. He orders Dhalsim to capture the kid for a massive payday. Dhalsim smirks, saying he will grab the kid if he even survives. Out of nowhere, Eddie shoots 2 arrows straight at the boxer. But the illegal hunter casually blocks them with a prana-coated arm, laughing that they are way too weak to even bother remembering. Right on cue, Captain Owl tosses a bomb. Pop. The thing hits the dirt and releases a massive smoke screen, completely blinding everyone's view of the entire crazy fight. Absolutely raging, the villain yells at them to back off and winds up a devastating punch. Smash! He punches the ground, sending a wild shockwave ripping right through the forest, completely destroying everything nearby. Dust clears. Dhalsim realizes the squad completely dipped while he was winding up. Rosso yells at him, warning that reckless attack was super dangerous. That crazy move could have literally killed Dhalsim too. Meanwhile, our squad totally used the thick smoke to escape safely with the wolf. Let us be real. They stood 0 chance in a brute strength battle against that monster. Running away was absolutely their smartest play. I know what you were thinking. Why run? Because this beast is top 600. Our boy is absolutely terrified here. Mid-escape, the royal horn slips right out of his hands, much to his extreme annoyance. A bit later, Luke stops them. They are far enough and finally in a safe spot, but she admits the real work is just getting started now. She drops a bombshell. Cruel Rosso is way too dangerous and must be captured. Lo finally connects the dots. He is the guy with the beard. Wait, why do you want to catch him? Luke admits it is completely a personal goal, leaving Owl and Eddie totally confused. They honestly have absolutely 0 clue what her deal is, but they gotta figure out their next move right away. Luke apologizes to Lo Tulie for jumping the gun. She reminds the squad that their actual official job is patrolling the Azaban forest, so they gotta track these 2 villains. As an official agent, she clearly admits a straight-up fight is a guaranteed loss for all of them. Owl completely agrees, suggesting they should strictly observe them. Once they gather solid evidence of the duo's crimes, they will just report it to the department and let them handle everything. Luke thinks it is super sketchy, but Owl and Eddie are totally hyped. Stuck around rank 6000, they absolutely want to use this crazy mission. Time to climb those ranks. They plan to flex their high stealth stats to tail the targets without getting caught by them at all. Look, since the forest is 48th on the danger list, snagging this intel could earn them a massive rank jump. We are talking jumping up at least 1,000 spots depending on if their tracking info is actually solid. Sensing the massive risk, Luke begs them not to throw their lives away. But Captain Owl reassures her, promising zero combat. He has no intention of being reckless here. For now, the entire squad agrees to split up. Luke and Lo Tulie take the royal horn to a safe spot. Trying to actually fight with a wild pet hanging nearby, absolute nightmare scenario. The biggest problem, Dalsin Iris actually wants the cubs, which means getting hit by an ambush is super likely. Plus, our boy refuses to drag the royal horn into any more drama. Especially since Luke saw the poor thing shaking in pure terror earlier because of them. The simple game plan, as soon as they stash the wolf safely, they will regroup right under a massive tall tree. Someone will strictly play lookout all night just to make sure they do not get caught slacking if trouble pops up. And that is where we leave it. Eddie keeps teaching Lo Tulie his sneaky forest moves. Alright, you and I are jumping straight back into the madness. Knowing Dal and Iris might slip away, our guy sends the others ahead. But first, he begs Eddie for a quick strategy crash course. Even with zero time, the archer gives a fast lesson. Meanwhile, Owl, whose sword got completely wrecked, borrows a dagger instead. As payment for the mercenaries' quick lesson, our hero hands over his own hunting blade. Before taking off, they drop some solid advice. Do some mental image training before bed. Review every single move daily to boost success rates. Now flying solo, Luke and Loy focus on sneaking the royal horn to safety. Plus, they finally resume that system-issued ecological survey. Dal and Iris are definitely still a massive headache, but our duo knows they have a job to finish here. Loy totally trusts Eddie and Owl to handle their mission. Honestly, he admits those two are probably way more capable than he is right now. Luke nods. Their skills are seriously impressive, and more importantly, they can actually be trusted. That sparks an idea. Loy suggests they try finding the royal horn's actual home while they finish up their survey. Where did this little guy even come from? He guesses there might be a whole pack of them waiting back at its nest. If that spot is actually safe, they can just hide the cub there. Luke completely agrees. And the easiest way to find it, literally just ask the royal horn itself. Classic anime logic. She casually walks up, pats the little beast on the head, and simply asks where it wants to go. Now watch this part closely. The royal horn dashes down a strange forest path, and we get to follow right along. They totally trust its instincts. Deep down, it's just a terrified cub wanting its mom. Mid-run though, they bump into another totally unknown and wild beast. Never missing a beat, Loy starts documenting every single creature. First, a bright green monkey, then a super bizarre moose. He just keeps scribbling notes and sketching random weird animals popping up. Eventually, they finally take a breather around a cozy campfire. Loy sits there meditating, literally feeling his prana flow. Suddenly, Luke calls out, totally snapping his focus. He admits he was just practicing Eddie's mental training. Luke is wide awake, judging his report. She brutally roasts his drawing skills, telling him he desperately needs to get better at sketching. She does not stop there. She tells him to keep his writing way shorter and actually look at things objectively. Seeing her work so hard, Loy straight up asks, why is she so obsessed with catching Rosso Cruel? Is it really a life or death goal? Without hesitating, she confirms it. She literally has zero choice but to finish this plan. Seeing how dead serious she was, our guy instantly decided to help. He gets it. Her staying up all night. Pure extreme anxiety. If she stopped moving for even a second, all that bottled up stress would completely explode. It is a heavy feeling he knows perfectly well. Luke actually finds it kind of crazy how casually he talks about it. But then it hits her that is exactly why he trains like an absolute maniac every night. She quietly thanks him for stepping up, even though he still has zero clue what her real goal is. Sensing he could truly help her out, Loy listens closely. Luke finally drops the walls and decides to spill every single secret. She starts with the basics. Normal rankings are just lists putting the strongest people right at the very top. Everyone fights to climb up, chasing glory and proving their worth. But then, she mentions the exact opposite, a twisted ranking built from the bottom up. You and I both know what that means. A ranking of the absolute worst. And that dark list is exactly what she is hunting. The whole thing started 5 years ago. Luke had a best friend named Miela. She was totally blind from birth, never once seeing the world herself. Honestly, maybe that is exactly why she never once laughed at Luke's crazy dream. Instead, she would hype Luke up, calling her amazing and asking if she really wanted to be a top appraiser. Luke would answer with pure confidence. Her ultimate goal, become the absolute best appraiser, smash the #1 ranking record, and faithfully record history's greatest figures. To her, there was no higher honor. While all the other kids brutally mocked her, Miela was the only person who actually believed in that dream. Then, one day, Miela randomly drops that school was just way too small for someone like Luke. She excitedly reveals her dad got an invite for a trip on a massive cruise ship called Bond Solutions. Luke lost her mind with excitement. This was a brand new ultra-luxury cruise ship. Miela explained her dad scored the fancy invite through a relative, so she did not really know all the exact details. She actually wanted to just give her ticket to Luke. Since she could not see the ocean, she figured the trip would not be very fun anyway. But Luke completely refused. She said she would only go if Miela came along. Grabbing her friend's hand, she swore she would guide her every single step. So Miela finally agreed to ask her dad. After a quick talk, Miela's mom actually gave up her own ticket so Luke could board the Bond Solutions, for Luke, who never fit in. But trust me, you and I are about to watch everything change. Let's dive into a backstory that will absolutely break your heart. Miela was the blind girl's only true friend, and their bond was something truly special. But just 2 days into their ship ride, absolute disaster hits. An engine fails, the ship runs totally aground and starts sinking incredibly fast. The crash instantly wiped out over half the lifeboats. That meant 3 full trips to save everyone. In pure panic mode, the captain rushed all the terrified passengers right onto the main deck. Out of options, the captain pulled out a specific book to decide exactly who gets saved first. Standing before the nervous crowd, he started reading names for the very first rescue group. If you heard your name, you had to board the lifeboat right that second. Luca squeezed her blind friend's hand, promising to stay close. Then out of nowhere, the captain shouted Luca's name. He read off a few more lucky passengers and closed the first list. Luca froze in absolute shock. She was picked, but Miela was left behind. Her blind friend gently let go of her hand, begging Luca to leave without her. No time for arguments, she said. If they waited, both of them could easily end up dead. Miela fully believed Luca would become an amazing appraiser and begged her to survive. Heartbroken and crying, Luca finally gave in and climbed into the escape boat. The second she hit dry land, Luca rushed straight back on the next trip. But when she arrived, Miela was already completely gone. By the third rescue, run time ran out. Luca watched the entire ship blow up and dropped to her knees, completely shattered inside. Nearby, 2 crew members were whispering, bragging about living righteous lives. Now pay close attention here because this reveal is sickening. They mentioned leaving the ranking of the worst for last, and Luca completely snapped, demanding answers immediately. Just looking at their panicked faces, she knew this was a highly guarded, dirty secret. She backed them into a corner, threatening to expose them to everyone if they stayed quiet. Terrified, the crew spilled the truth, begging her to keep her mouth shut in front of the captain. The ranking of the worst is a twisted list judging people by their flaws. It literally groups up anyone struggling socially, economically, physically, or mentally as completely worthless. Luca spat back that you could easily spot those kinds of people just by looking. Our hero quickly realized the dark truth. This list decided exactly who gets thrown away during any major crisis. Powerful people like hospital directors, shady politicians, and yes, even ship captains. They secretly abused this corrupt system to decide whose lives actually mattered. Ever since that horrible day, Luca made it her life mission to destroy this ranking. She refuses to forgive the sick system that murdered her best friend. To her, a list that literally throws the weak into despair shouldn't exist. Hearing this, our hero finally understood her insane drive, but he still asked, how does Rosso Cruel fit into all this? I know what you are thinking. How does this connect? Luca wants to use Rosso Cruel to expose this totally unofficial, disgusting ranking of the worst once and for all. They needed to capture him and demand answers about this entirely hidden ranking system. That is the only way to find the mastermind running things. She is going to crush Rosso Cruel no matter what it takes. When asked if she had a suspect, Luca guessed it had to be a massive organization. You do not just involve rich politicians without serious underworld power. Basically a dark version of the Institute running things from the shadows. She admitted it was just a theory. Seeing the massive burden she carried, he gently told her she survived so much pain yet somehow never ever gave up. He called her genuinely incredible, making her blush like crazy. Tears finally spilled over. Sniffling, Luca asked Lo Tulie to open up about his own past. She hated crying alone and wanted him to share his pain with her. He smiled, agreeing to talk but promising he wouldn't shed a tear. Right there by the warm campfire, he spilled his entire tragic history. By the very next morning, Luca Meldia was still crying. She never expected Lo's past to be so insanely dark. It totally made sense now. She understood why he was rushing to the island of the gods to rescue his missing people. Lo smiled back, admitting she taught him that rushing blindly never guarantees a single victory. Knowing their bond was now solid, he promised to always protect her officially, asking Luca to be his own personal appraiser for good. Still wiping her eyes, she happily agreed, promising he would not regret a thing. They made it official with a firm handshake. After hiking for quite a bit, the duo started searching for the path home. Stopping for a breather, our hero asked Luca about the natural habitat of royal horns. She explained these beasts love caves. Since they eat plants, they do not hunt and just prefer hiding out safely inside quiet, dark shelters. Out of nowhere, the royal horn leading them freaked out and sprinted away like crazy. Refusing to lose their guide, they dashed right after it toward a massive rock. And trust me, you and I are definitely not ready for what happens next. Let's dive right in. Rook instantly realizes this isn't a normal rock. It's a Musa mimic, a totally rare beast she never expected to find in the Azaban forest. But the crazy part, this giant monster was already dead, explaining everything. She explains that normal mimics use shiny treasure to trap humans. But this Musa mimic, it literally uses other live monsters as bait. It stores rare creatures inside its own body to lure in greedy poachers teaming up with those beasts to eat the hunters alive. Because it roams around carrying so many wildly different monsters, people literally call this thing a walking museum. That royal horn must have been trapped inside. When this mimic gets hungry, it dumps out every monster at once to crush its prey. But looking at the scene, this tricky mimic completely played itself and died. Rook figures Owl Darkus probably took this massive beast down, basically wrapping up their whole ecological survey mission. The mimic dying is exactly why so many random monsters just suddenly flooded into the forest. Every single trapped creature escaped at the exact same time, throwing the entire ecosystem into pure chaos. Honestly, Rook has plenty of data now. Our hero finds the whole scene absolutely brutal. He guesses those nasty wounds came from the poacher's weapons. But Rook quickly corrects him. Those bite marks happened after it died. Other monsters definitely ate this thing. Since this mimic actually bonds with its captive roommates, the killer had to be a completely different aggressive monster native to this very forest. The little royal horn slowly walks up to the giant dead creature, gently rubbing against its body. Lo completely feels its pain. This poor animal just lost its home exactly like he did. Getting your home ripped away destroys you. Sensing his empathy, the little royal horn actually gets teary-eyed. Now pay attention here, things get wild. A terrifying noise hits them. It's the bloody orc Rook fought before. The massive orc charges in completely smashing the ground. But Lo moves like lightning. He scoops up Rook and the little wolf to shield them. Lo steps right up, shielding his friends while that nasty bloody orc just starts eating the dead mimic. Theory totally confirmed the local beasts are eating the mimic. Absolutely furious, the tiny royal horn charges, leaping up to headbutt the giant orc. But the huge monster easily swats the little guy away. Bruised and beaten down, that brave little animal still glares right at its giant opponent. Seeing that courage, Lo draws his sword, points it dead at the orc, and claims this fight. He is finally going to try that technique he keeps failing. Even though Eddie isn't some master swordsman, he gave Lo one crucial piece of advice about Prana. Our boy always assumed his energy control was the problem. Turns out the fix was actually incredibly simple. Eddie taught him the secret Markman family Prana method passed down for generations. He knew Lo would pick it up super fast. Lo closes his eyes, focusing hard and remembering his master's exact words. Eddie said his raw senses were already perfectly sharp. The real trick was using those senses to look deep inside, basically watching himself from a bird's eye view. You and I both know Lo's Prana is insane, making this tricky technique perfectly suited for him. Boom. He opens his eyes, glowing green and radiating pure energy. With his mind perfectly sharp, he basically places an invisible eye outside his own body, fully analyzing how his crazy Prana flows. Realizing his internal energy was completely chaotic, he uses this new technique to finally smooth it out. Next up, he points that massive sword straight at the bloody orc. He drops a massive vertical slash using the lotus flower technique, followed by a vicious X-cut. Rook is absolutely stunned it actually worked. Knowing one single hit wouldn't drop this beast, Lo pushes the attack, charging up even more insane amounts of power. Since the lotus flower technique stacks its damage, he just keeps swinging, landing what looks like an infinite combo of heavy strikes. He relentlessly slices the bloody orc, until at the perfect moment he finishes the wild combo and sheathes his blade. He turns away knowing the monster is finished. Rook is completely speechless at his raw strength. After the fight, Lo slowly approaches the little royal horn, telling it there's zero need to be afraid anymore. He proves he isn't an enemy, gently offering his hand. The tiny wolf sniffs it, then slowly places its paw down in pure trust. Lo realizes he definitely needs to stick close to the royal horn, especially since this whole forest just became a total death trap. Meanwhile, Rook starts stressing out, wondering if Owl and Eddie are actually surviving out there on their own. Cut to a greedy poacher cornering another royal horn. He wants a clean slice, but the panicked animal just won't stop thrashing around. Trust me, you'll want to see this. He asks Rosso Cruel if damaging the carcass is okay. Rosso Cruel shot back, saying that would tank the value. He explained that starting with powdered material makes everyone think it is a total scam. Even if they plan to grind it later, the buyers will not trust it at all. Stick with me here. Owl and Eddie watched from afar, realizing they were totally outmatched, so they decided to just snitch to the evaluation department. With the hunters already snatching up almost all the loot, our boys seriously considered backing out. Too late for that. Dalkin Iris decided it was finally time to crush the little spies. Moving like lightning, he dashed straight at their hiding spot and threw an absolutely devastating punch. Boom, the tree shattered, launching Owl and Eddie through the air. They landed cleanly, but guess what? Dalkin had sensed them hiding there from the very first second. He was already busy tracking a magical beast down the exact same cleared path. While looting goods, he literally tracked every single nearby beast. A 3-digit adventurer like him does not just use raw muscle, they have insane map awareness of everything around them. Panicking Owl chucked a smoke bomb. Dalkin just laughed, saying cheap tricks would not work, and literally caught it mid-air. But wait, Eddie fired a clutch arrow, detonating the bomb in his hand. A massive smoke cloud erupted. Knowing their old escape tricks were completely useless now, they bolted fast. Eddie yelled that they had to boost their survival odds right now, even just by a tiny bit. So, he wiped some blood off his face, scribbled a quick message on some paper, and strapped it tight around an arrow. He fired it straight up into the sky, declaring they had done absolutely everything possible. Now watch this closely. Dalkin strolled out of the smoke, mocking their choice to stop running. He called it smart since he owned this terrain anyway. He boldly promised to wipe them both out in one hit. But Owl glared back, telling him to back off, ready to brawl. Eddie chimed in, saying real archers dominate by giving cover fire. Unlike their mess with Isami, they were actually going to fight smart this time. Owl shined the brightest in team battles alongside true allies. Meanwhile, Eddie loudly declared he was completely done taking weak orders from anyone. Teaming up, they started leaking a massive amount of prana. From far away, our main guy felt this wild energy surge, wondering if he was just hallucinating it. Meanwhile, Luke asked Lo Tulie what to do with the royal horn. Lo Tulie replied they had to guard it and take it for evaluation later, since standing around doing nothing was not an option. Escaping this deadly forest with the beast meant completely crushing Dalkin Iris first. Luke nodded, brainstorming 2 different plans. Plan 1, call the department and just camp for backup. Maybe an LA tier fighter could actually show up fast. Otherwise, gathering a whole squad would take forever. Our guy knew Dalkin had way better prana control, so playing hide-and-seek would fail. That is why Luke suggested a second, much simpler strategy instead. I know what you and I want to see, so let's jump back. Owl and Eddie are still pumping out prana, leaving Dalkin completely shocked. Truth is, these guys literally had 0 prana skills before, but maxing out their natural talents finally awakened this hidden energy deep inside. They just needed the perfect trigger to unleash it all. Owl built his insane senses through intense mercenary group fights, making him a total genius at scanning enemy power levels. He honestly had not faced serious danger in years. And Eddie, that kid was born a pure prodigy when it came to sniping with a bow. Backed by a high-class family, nobody ever dared test him. Sadly, neither of them had ever tasted real defeat. But luckily, they bumped into a monster who showed them true despair. Lo Tulie, a legendary prana user operating in a completely different dimension. Getting wrecked by him really forced their eyes wide open. Fully awakened now, they rushed Dalkin Owl, swung his scavenged dagger hard, but the hunter instantly blocked it and slapped his arm right down. Owl quickly went for a second slice using Lo Tulie's special blade, but Dalkin just tanked it with his prana-coated forearm, flexing pure dominance, blocking razor-sharp steel without wearing a single piece of armor. Eddie was already a forest sniper, but now, he was actually seeing the flowing colors of prana for the very first time. This let him unleash a homing arrow with god-tier precision, aiming straight for the back of Dalkin's exposed neck. The hunter dodged and tried to push toward the sniper. But then, he pivoted, flared up even more prana aura, and forcefully slammed the incoming projectile right into the dirt. Right on cue, another smoke bomb blew up right there. Even while dodging the crazy slashes, Dalkin suddenly took a brutal arrow straight to the gut. The flawless shot rained down from Eddie's hidden tree spot. Dalkin Iris finally realized he got completely played. That sneaky archer scaled the tree the absolute second this chaotic fight started. So what do you and I learn here? Perfect teamwork wins. The archer calls the shots, and the swordsman pushes the attack relentlessly. Come along with me. Owl spots a perfect opening and slams his dagger straight into the enemy's leg. But right then, Dalsin actually catches Owl using secret hand signals. Figuring out Owl is the absolute brains behind this operation. Dalsin thinks he could decode them with time, but he knows this mercenary loves bluffs. Seeing their flawless teamwork, Dalsin decides to take a step back. He starts running his mouth, claiming smuggling demonic beasts is just too much hassle. He swears he was playing around, not wanting to waste precious stamina for absolutely nothing. Then he completely taunts them, asking if they understand. He arrogantly declares 1,000 clever strategies will not change a thing. The raw power gap between them is just way too massive. Owl snaps back, telling him not to underestimate them. Boom! Eddie instantly fires another arrow. Sensing real danger now, Dhalsim finally gets serious and effortlessly blocks both of their attacks. Time for his true power. Showcasing his rank 48 in domination, Dhalsim easily catches Owl's dagger mid-air. Then he completely crushes the weapon bare-handed. Rank 19 grip strength is absolutely no joke. Right after that, Dhalsim delivers a devastating kick. Owl goes flying backward with so much insane force that he completely shatters a tree on impact. Agonizing pain takes over as Owl collapses, leaving Eddie totally panicking. Then, Dhalsim casually rips an entire tree from the ground, flexing his rank 7 weightlifting stats. The brutal impact leaves Owl completely crushed, barely whispering Eddie's name. Dhalsim steps closer, casually noting that ruined organs mean the body is utterly worthless to sell. So he decides to just execute him right there. Now, watch closely. Right before the final blow, a glowing green prana slash explodes out of nowhere. It slams into Dhalsim's arm, completely stopping him. The hero arrived in the nick of time, all thanks to Eddie's warning arrow. Bleeding out, Owl tries speaking, but just cannot finish. The hero steps onto the scene casually, stating his method is pretty simple. Drawing his blade, he confidently vows to wipe this villain off the map entirely. It is on adventurer rank $2,700, is stepping up to fight the rank 672 powerhouse. From far away, Rosocruel notices Dhalsim is taking way too long. He did not think Dhalsim could actually lose to weaklings, but he factored in the wildcard hero Lo Tulie. He feels that massive rising prana belongs to the kid. Back on the battlefield, the hero and Dhalsim stand face to face, radiating pure explosive energy. The heavy tension shatters. The second Dhalsim charges in with a devastating punch. A rapid flurry of strikes follows, but the hero skillfully blocks every hit. Lo scales a tree and launches a lightning-fast spinning slash, but Dhalsim easily parries the very first strike. Seeing this, our hero leaps down and charges at full speed. His enemy does the exact same thing. Bam! The collision unleashes so much raw prana that the surrounding environment literally starts warping. Nobody lands a clean hit. You saw that coming, right? Dhalsim sneers, admitting Lo improved a tiny bit but still cannot match his insane strength. Then the enemy jumps back, erupting with even more power. His raging aura rams into the hero like a literal bull, but remarkably, Lo stands his ground completely. Dhalsim charges a supercharged punch, utterly destroying another poor tree. He rips it up like a baseball bat, screaming that running is useless. Lo barely ducks under the massive trunk that almost flattens him. The illegal hunter leaps back up, winding up another lethal blow. Lo knows Dhalsim is rank 672, but hey, he survived rank 11 and even Otto the absolute number 1. Facing the incoming attack, he feels zero fear, pushing his prana to its absolute breaking point. The energy glows so brightly, it actually blinds Dhalsim, forcing him to totally halt his furious attack. Seizing the moment, Lo delivers a massive deep slash that severely injures his enemy. Totally furious, Dhalsim calls it a pathetic, cheap trick, claiming the hero just copied techniques. Lo fires back that his enemy does not even have a technique. Dhalsim lunges again, but Lo finally realizes brute force is not the answer here. Strategy is everything. He remembers the tactical advice Owl taught him. In a world dominated by knowledge and combat patterns, securing a sheer numerical advantage is key. So, what do you and I learn here? Follow Owl's patterns. Step 1. Surprise attack. 2. Lure them in. 3. Execute a flawless coordinated strike. And right on cue, strictly following the master plan, Owl leaps from a tree. Alright, stick with me. Here we are jumping right into absolute chaos as the mercenary lunges. Dhalsim is absolutely furious because Owl is somehow still moving. Owl grabs the enemy's body tight, completely pinning him down to help our hero. Lo charges in, but Dhalsim Iris loses his mind. He curses them both and blasts this absurd amount of prana, destroying the area and throwing everyone back. Dhalsim preps his final strike, but out of nowhere, boom, a homing arrow locks right onto his eye, Eddie's very last shot. Bullseye. The arrow completely wrecks Dhalsim Iris's eye. Even heavily injured Eddie nailed that epic final shot, leaving the rest of this crazy fight to Lo Tulie. Without missing a beat, our hero rushes in to deliver the final strike. He unleashes a brutal prana-fueled slash that rips a massive wound right across his enemy's stomach. Dhalsim stumbles back from the massive hit, but somehow stays standing. Then out of absolutely nowhere, he drops a terrifying scream. Pushing past his limits, his arm literally mutates and smashes the ground. The impact sends our hero flying straight up into the sky. Lo barely blocks with his sword, but that hit is still devastating. While he is airborne, Dhalsim Iris screams he is going to crush him the second his feet touch dirt. Now watch this closely. Dhalsim actually praises Lo for surviving, but warns him there are 0 friends left to save his life. He yells at him to stop being annoying and just die already. Right then, a flashback hits. Lo remembers calming that giant horned wolf, holding its paw and proving they weren't enemies. And talk about perfect timing, Luke suddenly bursts onto the scene, screaming for Dalsin Iris to stop and totally distracting him. Thanks to the distraction, the horned wolf charges in full speed, driving its massive horn straight into Dalsin's back. Good boy. Seeing the opening, Luke yells for Lo Tulie to finish this immediately. Answering her call, our hero drops from the sky like an absolute meteor. He is shrouded in glowing green prana, roaring aggressively. The first hit connects hard. Dalsin tries to block with his forearm, but those brutal cuts just keep stacking up non-stop. The strikes get heavier and heavier. The insane pressure is literally driving Dalsin right into the dirt. To end this, our hero unleashes the lotus flower technique, pushing it to the absolute max intensity he has ever hit. He totally wrecks the illegal hunter, slamming him down so hard it leaves a crater. Lo then collapses from pure exhaustion, leaning heavily on his sword just to stay upright. Luke sees he is completely battered with serious injuries, but she still runs over to congratulate him. She calls him absolutely incredible for beating Dalsin Iris. But our protagonist replies he only knocked him out. Now, you and I might think it is over, but nope. Lo says his completely disfigured enemy is somehow still breathing. Out of nowhere, Dalsin grabs Lo Tulie's face, screaming that he will drag him straight to hell. Luke screams for him to let go, but suddenly she feels this deeply unsettling and bizarre energy radiating off the villain. She collapses in fear, realizing Dalsin is basically a monster. But despite the crazy threat, he somehow can't crush Lo's head. Lo grips his sword, totally ready to keep fighting. During this tense standoff, the villain triggers a flashback. He remembers his old crew pointing out his crazy high energy. But they warned him that climbing the ranks now required actual teamwork. They told Dalsin he had to respect their slower pace. Honestly, this deeply irritated him because he knew he was way stronger than them. Snapping back to reality, he glares at Lo and Luke, calling them completely pathetic. Then he grabs our protagonist's neck, declaring he is going to completely strangle him to death. Caught in a brutal chokehold, the hero literally can't even react at first. Gripping his enemy's arm, he swears he will never die in a place like this. Thinking of his sister Yuna, he refuses to give up. His life flashes before his eyes, and suddenly he explodes with a completely absurd amount of prana. The insane power level actually startles his enemy. A gentle breeze and scattered clouds finally draw out the water, warmly caressing the earth. Those who consume life inside a sunlit and inviolable sanctuary will catch a glimpse of eternity. Therefore, the invader must witness these unbreakable, precious days. Right then, Lo grabs Dalsin's arms and just brutally rips them completely off with insane strength. Completely in absolute shock, Dalsin demands to know what he did. Surprise, our hero busted out the secret arts of the Tulie tribe. This is Lo's legendary technique, the descent of the celestial spirit. This wild enchantment left everyone totally confused. It was unlike anything else, just radiating an absolutely massive wave of pure prana energy. Lo chanted the spell, and with one swift motion completely tore off his enemy's arm. Dalsin obviously reacted with pure blinding fury. Dalsin desperately tried to retaliate, swinging a brutal punch with his left arm. But the exact second he touched Lo's chest, boom, he lost that arm too. Lo coldly declares his defeat, delivering a fatal slash to his chest. You and I just witnessed one absolutely legendary takedown. Stick with me here. As the enemy dropped, our hero realized these rankings were pure garbage. This exact mess pulled Dalsin straight back into his dark past. Back then, they flat out told him no team performance, no climbing the adventurer ranks. The guy cleared insane missions solo and hit rank 5,800. But their final verdict? Zero team spirit. Absolute joke, right? Furious, Dalsin Iris slammed his hand right on the director's desk. He demanded to be graded on raw solo power alone. I mean, he was way stronger than most double-digit elites anyway. But the stubborn evaluator wouldn't budge, explaining that the ranking criteria were completely set in stone. As part of the evaluation department, his hands were tied. No promotion for him. He did mention some special cases existed for certain tiers. Like that one prodigy kid who just grabbed the number 2 spot. He was an absolute monster at flying solo. But the evaluator made it crystal clear. Dalsin Iris did not qualify for a single exception. If that happened today, Dalsin would have made the guy pay dearly. He was boiling with rage because despite his rough look, he worked incredibly hard. For any ranker, that number is their ultimate dream. It is literally not an exaggeration to say they breathe just to climb higher. Out of options, he got stuck meeting Ryu at rank 4,600, along with a random girl at rank 5,000. They totally knew Dalsin was rushing, but these two considered it a massive honor to team up with a 3-digit powerhouse like him. So, yeah, he was forced to party up with absolute small fry. The real reason he lacked team spirit. He was just way too overpowered for them. Whoever he teamed up with just became dead weight, getting in his way. Naturally, the evaluation department completely ignored that little detail. One day, a massive griffin appeared. The other two froze in pure shock. Dalson obliterated the beast with one single punch. He didn't even break a sweat, wrapping up the mission instantly, but he noticed something weird. Since joining these weaklings, magical beast encounters had skyrocketed. Smashing them was easy, sure, but the crazy high spawn rate was super suspicious. Now, pay attention here. One night he caught them sneaking through the woods and discovered the ugly truth. These absolute rats were stealing luxury items. The pair had been secretly researching monster spawn locations way in advance. On the job, they would quietly lure the monsters straight to them using a top-tier ranker like Dalson to effortlessly clear the threat. He overheard them bragging. They purposely hunted for clueless rankers who didn't understand the system, planning to milk them dry for free protection while they grabbed all the good loot. Seeing that absolute trash, Dalson coldly ordered them to drop the bag. Then, in the most cowardly move ever, the guy punched his own girl in the face. His plan, frame Dalson, so he'd get his rank revoked. The snake actually started screaming, asking how Dalson dared to strike his own teammates. He even yelled that this toxicity was why Dalson couldn't rank up. He boldly threatened to report this fake incident to the evaluation department. The rat knew Dalson couldn't defend himself. The guild would believe the generous weaklings over the solo brute, with a known history of zero team spirit. The system was totally rigged against him, and the absolute audacity. They smirked and said if he apologized, they would just pretend nothing ever happened. The mere thought of bowing down to these parasites just to rank up made Dalson snap. He completely lost it, destroying them both permanently right on the spot. Absolute carnage. And honestly, he never regretted it. But obviously it didn't take the evaluation department long to uncover the bloody mess he left. You and I both know, killing an adventurer is a massive crime. But shockingly, thanks to his insane past achievements, he dodged a prison sentence. Instead, they completely stripped his rank and slapped him with a brutal 3-year registration ban. He sold off everything in pure rage, kicking off his massive downfall. By the time that 3-year ban finally ended, Dalson was broken. He had completely given up on life and the system. He survived by grabbing any dirty job for cash, just living completely recklessly day to day. That's exactly when some shady underground dealer approached him with a twisted offer. Lo Cruel pitched him the insane idea of literally buying a rank. Blinded by a desperate thirst for revenge, Dalson actually accepted the dark deal. He wanted nothing more than to crush the system. He needed to make that blind evaluation department severely regret throwing him away. Dalson firmly believed our hero would eventually feel that exact same despair. That crushing, hopeless agony of a ranker violently hitting an unbreakable wall. Back in the present, our hero barely clutched the win. Right after the dust settled, the girl nervously asked where he was heading next. Completely drained, he just stated the mission wasn't done yet. They still had to hunt down and capture Lo Cruel tonight. That was the only way she could get closer to finding out who really controlled those corrupt rankings. Fired up to help her, he started marching off. But suddenly, she dashed over and gave him a tight back hug, begging him to stop and rest. She warned that in his battered state, even she could easily defeat him. She begged him to just wait for the next opportunity. He tried to argue, but she said finding someone willing to bleed for her was enough. And honestly, you and I can see why he finally stopped. Overcome by sheer exhaustion, he mumbled a soft apology and collapsed totally unconscious. Stick with me, we are jumping right into the aftermath as she rushes to the evaluation department. Our guy finally wakes up and jumps into action. Injured or not, if he can still stand, he is using his powers to patch everyone up. But while knocked out, our hero had this super long dream, a flashback to his parents when he was literally just a baby. His dad dropped some heavy lore saying memories imprint right onto your prana and heart. Someday when he finally awakens, he would remember this exact chat. That's why his mom avoided saying weird things, terrified Lud might remember later. So they invented the fake identity of Tony, just hiding out, trying to live a normal, peaceful life far away. Watching this dream play out, our boy felt the exact same emotions his old man did. But hold up. If peace was the goal, why did his dad bother teaching him how to use prana anyway? Then it hits him. His mom, his dad, his grandma, every single one of them knew he was destined for the battlefield eventually. And just like that, the dream fades. Opening his eyes, boom, the number 11 ranker is right there watching him. Luca was freaking out, explaining he had been out cold for an entire day. Honestly, he was just glad she stuck around to take care of him. Al drops by, too casually mentioning he checked in earlier. If our boy had not woken up soon, Al was ready to drag him to the royal castle. Apparently, the massive disaster of his debut is already the town's hottest gossip. Ignoring that, our hero finally manages to stand up and stretch. Al poked fun, asking if Ed just sprinted to the department and back. Eddie shot back that he simply could not abandon the crew. Plus, Lo Tulie was definitely going to be thrilled, knowing everyone survived and pitched in. Seeing Dal and Iris squirming, Lud actually undid his restraints. But he made it crystal clear trying anything sneaky would be a massive mistake. Right on cue, the evaluation department guys dragged the villain away. Watch closely here because you and I need to figure this out. Dallin's missing arms did not look sliced off, they literally looked erased from reality. Lud was completely baffled. To pull off damage on that insane level, even the #1 knight in the world would have taken serious hits. Lord Tulie absolutely had to be hiding some terrifying trump card. Meanwhile, Luca pitched a solid idea. Once he healed up, he desperately needed to enter more rankings. Why? Because rankings are basically an epic stat check. Look at Dallin, he only brawled up close because his brute strength stats were practically unbeatable. So testing out different leaderboards would totally reveal his true hidden potential. Luca bragged that the department had wild gadgets to measure any skill imaginable. She promised a full VIP tour once they hit the royal castle. Cut to the deep, creepy shadows of the distant forest. Rosso sensed one final super weird pulse of Prana energy. He realized that after years of hiding in the shadows, the kid just walked into the spotlight like it was no big deal. Was he showing off on purpose? Maybe he was baiting attention just to force contact with the legendary island of the gods. Minutes later, Rosso steps up to massive double doors stamped with twin snakes. Inside, a whole squad of shady hooded figures waiting in the dark. They bowed down to their boss, dropping a massive bombshell. They finally tracked down the descendant of Babel. Armed with this insane info, the cult was ready to fast forward their sinister master plan. I know what you were thinking. Classic bad guys, right? They want to burn down the entire ranking system. Their boss hyped them up, ordering everyone to go absolutely berserk with their powers. All for the glory of their secret syndicate Ouroboros. Get this. Cruel Rosso was supposed to be ranked 76 in the smuggler category. But plot twist, he is actually Adam. #1 smuggler, second best assassin, fourth in theft, and the absolute top dog in drug manufacturing. Insane. Oh, it gets worse. Adam is also the #1 Prana scholar pulling the strings as the leader of the deadliest criminal organization around. 2 identities. 1 terrifying mastermind. Meanwhile, back with our much less evil heroes, the squad finally rolls up to the royal castle. Luca goes into boss mode, shipping Al and Ed to the medics, while she tackles the official report. She even tossed Lud the assignment to write up Dallin's whole beast kidnapping mess. Our boy noticed she was ordering everyone around like a pro. She just shrugged, saying she was way too used to cleaning up after reckless rankers. She also dropped a calendar invite, telling the whole crew to leave their schedules wide open in 10 days for a massive ranking update. Hearing that Al and Ed were completely hyped, dreaming of some amazing scores, while the guys rested up, Luca cornered our hero to talk about the royal horn beast. Apparently, protected magical creatures legally require an official guardian to babysit them. Naturally, she wanted him to take on the massive job. So what do you and I make of this? He is down, but why cannot she do it? Blame the department's endless bureaucratic red tape. Stick with me here. Since the royal horn was going to get massive, the department facilities would be way too small. As an evaluator, Luke could not take it for walks. But our hero, being a free adventurer, meant he could walk it whenever. This was a perfect setup for the wolf. Grateful, she asked him to pick a name. He instantly went with Ralph. When Luke asked if there was a cool backstory behind that name, he just smiled and explained. Back when he was a kid, a super brave dude in his village fought a giant red grizzly bear all by himself, so he totally stole the name. He then thanked Luke for the save during the Dallin fight, telling Ralph to protect her from now on. He gave the wolf a nice head pat, and the big guy immediately showed some love. With Ralph safely under the evaluation department's roof, our guy could swing by to visit him anytime. After that, he headed straight to the infirmary where Owl Darkus and Eddie were already healing up. Knowing his rank was climbing, he wondered where he would land. He felt super busy now, finally getting the chaotic life of a ranker. Bam, a nurse busted in telling everyone to shut up. If they behaved, she promised to heal any injury in just 10 days. But the catch? They had to follow her crazy instructions down to the absolute letter. This doctor was Clara Save, rank 14. She instantly barked at our hero to lie down. She totally chewed him out, calling ranked adventurers pure idiots for walking around with open wounds. Naturally, the guys started a dumb contest to see who would heal faster. This annoyed Clara so much, she yelled at them to shut up. Now watch this closely. Suddenly those bandages literally came alive, wrapping super tightly around their bodies. Clara Save was no joke. Her healing ability was absolute perfection, and everyone recovered in a flash. While they rested, Luke dropped by a few times. But honestly, she looked completely swamped with insane paperwork. The evaluation department was famous for being strict and totally impartial. Clearly, Luke was working herself to the bone to keep it running. Cut to her office. She told her secretary that these evaluations were a massive headache requiring some brutal choices. Then she ordered her to contact a Prana scholar named Ela. Why? Because they literally could not find a single thing about the Tulie tribe. 10 days passed. Everyone gathered in front of Luke for their big ranking updates. She explained that updating these crazy adventurer ranks meant renting a whole room just to crunch massive mountains of data. They literally had to cross-reference every little detail with all the other rankings. Normally, a huge team handles this. But to their absolute shock, she revealed she did it almost entirely alone, just getting brief help from a friend. The guys were totally stunned, knowing the adventurer ranking process was notoriously awful to handle. Let that sink in for a second. Updating all three alone proved she is an absolute top-tier evaluator. Luke just called it her job and cut straight to the big reveals. Kicking things off was Owl Darkus. Originally, his rank sat at 6,300. She noted how he cornered Dallin during the forest patrol. Catching a lawbreaker took some seriously exceptional cunning and strategy. His big brain plays with a makeshift squad, plus his bold leadership were the winning factors. Factoring all that in, Owl's new rank was 267. That is an insane climb of over 4,000 spots. Next up was Eddie Markman, sitting at rank 6,700. Luke highly praised his epic performance in the Azaban Forest. She highlighted his iron mental fortitude and deadly sniper accuracy. Plus, his prana control was so flawless he could actually teach it. Those killer instincts in the wild were also the perfect fit for an adventurer. With all that considered, Eddie's rank skyrocketed to 1,870. A massive jump of nearly 5,000 positions. Finally, the main event, Lo Tulie, who held rank 2,728. Luke read off his wild achievements. 7 unconfirmed magic beast species discovered. He found out why the beasts swarmed, and his epic swordsmanship completely rivaled Dallin's strength. She hyped his insane potential for learning fast, and obviously that mysterious technique he used to utterly destroy his enemy. Boom, he surged straight to rank 1,089. With just one jump, he almost cracked the triple digits. Luke warned him to stay prepared, because this kind of growth speed was totally unprecedented. She explained that the world doesn't care when you just enter the ranks. They notice when you climb like an absolute madman, because that climb proves your insane growth rate. So what do you and I take from this? Owl and Eddie had great jumps, sure. But Lo blasting from the 2000s to near triple digits, absolutely legendary. You and I are about to see exactly what happens when the entire world learns the name Lo Tulie. From this day forward, our guy's life as a ranker gets completely flipped upside down. The fame brings good things, but also some serious trouble. She wraps up the update right there, smiling. As expected of the Mars Knight Order, these kids had leveled up fast. Meanwhile, someone grabs a ranking panel to check the standings. She glares at the adventurer board. A certain thief had somehow skyrocketed to near triple digits in one go, despite totally ripping off a swordsmanship style. The girl absolutely loses it furious before quickly apologizing for the mess she just caused. She admits that boy got her way too fired up. Elsewhere, Lo discovers a special spot inside the evaluation department. They step into a massive facility, the absolute pride and joy of the department. Welcome to the challenge room. Inside, total chaos. Some people are hitting the books, while others are absolutely wrecking punching bags. Rook takes a second to remind him of her golden rule. Lo needs to get his name on multiple ranking boards fast. She explains how this challenge room works. They can test his skills right now and find his exact position on the spot. It was a crazy valuable setup. You only find these places in capital cities, making it super easy to grind out simple ranking updates. Lo gets it. There are quick updates like his search rank from before, and then way harder ones like the adventurer rank, which require being here. Rook makes it clear those easy-to-update rankings, the competition is totally brutal, but they act like the perfect stepping stones to climb the main board. Lo is surprisingly sharp. One quick explanation, and he totally understands the entire system. Rook smiles. He is not just smart. He is calculating the fastest possible route to the island of the gods. Now watch closely as she hypes him up. Give it your all, she says, because high scores here will instantly boost his adventurer rank. She gives him the green light to use prana, since that definitely counts as a skill. Right on cue, the body of Lo flares with raw energy as the intense testing begins. First up, short distance running. He grabs position 871. Next, power and jumping. He hits rank 1000. For grip strength and lifting, he lands at 2000 and 1800 respectively. He keeps pushing. Reflexes snag position 934, and balance hits 809. After scoring 2500 in lung capacity, he channels prana to boost his senses. The result, hearing hits 104 and smell reaches 98. Finally, Rook claps her hands. Physical tests are done. Time to tackle the resistance rankings, which are going to take way longer. As Lo walks past, the crowd starts whispering. They recognize the crazy rookie who just broke into the thousands. He awkwardly realizes those crazy high scores are drawing way too much attention. But Rook just laughs. Better get used to those stares if he wants his ultimate goal. Not far away, that white-haired, red-eyed girl from earlier is staring at him super weirdly. Rook points out his sensory ranks are insane. Lo admits his training with Ed helped him use prana there. She agrees, noting his totally natural talent. For a guy like him, making his senses sharper, seeing further and moving faster is just pure instinct. I know what you're thinking, he's basically a wild animal. But surprisingly, his muscular strength is already maxed out. Looking at his sprint and reflex scores, Rook decides he needs to go all in on an agility build. A tough call, but totally the right one, says Director Gran, appearing literally out of nowhere. He warmly greets Rook. She quickly whispers to Lo that this guy is a super big deal, so both of them instantly bow their heads. The director laughs, joking that having good manners does not get you bonus points on the rankings. Lo blinks. That exact phrase sounds super familiar to him right now. Suddenly, the pieces click together in his head. Gran runs the Trisha branch. The evaluation department usually drops hierarchies to keep things perfectly equal, but Mr. Gran, he is the one rare massive exception. He is an absolute legend. A famous talent scout who manages an insane amount of top-tier rankers. Lo remembers Rook saying those words, finally realizing Gran is the guy who bumped his rank up to where it is today. Gran acts super humble, brushing off his evaluator skills, and drops a bomb he was actually the one in charge of Dalkin Iris, which is exactly why he came down here personally, to say sorry. He praises our rank 1000 hero Lo for stepping up. So what do we make of this? Even big bosses respect true power. Let's jump right back in. Gran finally wrapped up the investigation into Dalsin's massive downfall. The results. His own so-called party members completely framed him and dragged his name through the mud. Turns out those two clowns were throwing crazy over-the-top parties way above their rank. Obviously, the evaluation department noticed the red flags pretty quickly. So yeah, those criminals were secretly being watched way before Dalsin Iris even stepped in. The evaluators actually leaked the plan, using a mutual friend, someone they totally expected Dalsin to trust blindly. Gran admitted evaluators put their entire pride on the line. Fake reports, yeah, those never slip past them. He honestly felt guilty for approving Dalsin Iris, but Lo quickly stepped up, telling Gran it wasn't his fault. Lo reminded him that rankers have their own brains. The department is just backup support, right? They don't need their hands held for every single tiny little detail. After all, rankers live and die by their pride. Dalsin Iris was just blindly following his own ego when he messed up. The director then decided to head down to Dalsin's actual jail cell for a chat. Gran said the illegal hunter was furious to see him, but shockingly, he actually owned up to his crimes. When Gran asked why Dalsin didn't just run away, the answer was simple, pure ranker pride. It's that stubborn feeling making you stand tall when facing an opponent you genuinely respect. Lo was the guy who sparked that lost pride again, which is exactly why the director thanked him one last time. Wrapping up the deep talk, the director told them he'd be heading out shortly. Now watch closely, things are shifting. Luke announced it was time to update more stats. Since Lo uses a blade, she suggested hitting the swordsmanship ranking first. Plus, mostly just out of personal curiosity, she really wanted to test his Prana ranking. But Director Gran immediately warned them. Measuring Prana around here, yeah, that would be tough. He explained that while the country's tech was pretty advanced, their Prana facilities were seriously lagging behind. Gran admitted their current gear couldn't possibly handle measuring Lo's insane Prana. He basically warned Luke to buckle up if she really wanted to be his exclusive evaluator. With that ominous warning, the director bounced, leaving Lo and Luke completely baffled. Having zero clue what he actually meant, they just strolled toward the Prana measuring machine. Luke mentioned there were specific Prana rankings, but taking Gran's warning seriously, she decided to stick to swordsmanship today. Swords are super popular, meaning tons of different categories like pure speed. But right before starting, Luke suddenly asked Lo for a huge favor. She begged him not to use the Sword Saint style. Why? Because it's an ultra-rare technique strictly passed from master to disciple, currently held by the absolute #1 knight. For literally every single other ranker out there, mastering that style was the ultimate dream. It's honestly, no joke, almost every knight out there was desperately trying to inherit that exact technique. You and I both know Lo is clueless, but he finally realized just how broken Adal's technique was. Luke explained that while Lo Tulie casually tossed out slashes like absolute child's play, it was genuinely a god-tier move. In her mind, only absolute elite swordsmen in the top 800 could pull off something like that. Think about those odds. Out of 2 billion people alive, barely 800 could do what he casually did. She kept explaining the lore. The Sword Saint style's founder was the legendary first #1 knight, Lawrence Wolf Raven, a top-tier swordsman and brilliant scholar who invented countless fighting styles. But the Sword Saint style, that was his absolute masterpiece. It let him freely control slashes, earning him the legendary nickname of the Slash Master. Realizing Lo's crazy power held massive historical weight, Luke seriously thought he should just keep that whole thing a secret for the time being. Because honestly, making the top-ranking knights instantly jealous and hateful right now? Absolutely terrible idea. Promising to play it smart for his future, our hero agreed to test his sword skills without busting out the Saint style. Even holding back his true ridiculous strength, he figured getting his name officially on the board was definitely the smarter play. He honestly asked if skipping the registration completely was better than just ending up with some embarrassing bottom-tier rank, but Luke completely shut that down, insisting he'd have zero credibility without a few solid rankings under his belt. She promised he didn't need to stress over the exact placement. First up, consecutive slashes on a super rare target known as a possession stone. This thing was practically immune to cutting. The challenge: spam as many consecutive hits as possible before the clock ran out. A sensor tracked every single strike while the stone magically healed itself. Lo instantly figured his Lotus technique would crush this test. Still, he held back, throwing raw slashes without a drop of prana. Result: position 149. Next up was the insane/precision test. This one judged your accuracy by the tiny gap between two heavy iron plates. Move those plates by just 1 millimeter, instant fail. It got harder as the gap shrank down, and if your blade wasn't swinging at lightning speed, the hit literally didn't count. A samurai just hit position 734. Stick around to see Lo destroy this record. Stick with me here because things are heating up. They said true swordsmen were rare, needing at least a triple-digit rank. But right after that, our boy stepped up, delivered one perfect slash, and hit rank 87. With Lotus unlocked, he figured it was time to master the third technique. Even without relying on the Sword Saint style, he was already sitting comfortably among the elite rankers. Trusting her gut, Rook turned and asked Lo Tulie for his official ranking card. He had used it back at the Azaban Forest. Our hero calmly pulled out his registration card. She explained it held up to 10 ranks. They picked his highest scores, and she got ready to submit the official request. But right at that exact moment, a white-haired, red-eyed woman suddenly showed up aggressively, asking about our hero's rank. She stepped right up to the stone, drew her blade in a flash, and unleashed a barrage of rapid slashes. Rank 29. She turned straight to Lo, smirking that he could easily do the same since he used the legendary Sword Saint style. Lo was absolutely stunned. How was his biggest secret exposed so easily? Now, pay attention, this is where it gets wild. She challenged Lo Tulie to a duel. Winner takes all, loser quits swordsmanship forever. She told him to follow her somewhere private since the knights were watching them. Out in the castle courtyard, she snapped. The Sword Saint style being leaked was a massive humiliation, and she refused to let some random guy drag the technique through the dirt. Keeping a tiny bit of manners, she introduced herself. Sets Aurelia, ranker knight, 305. She demanded he respect her knightly pride. Still super confused, Lo just had to ask, how did she know about his style? Sets scoffed. He literally used it out in the open during the adventurer test. Anyone with eyes could have seen it. Turns out, one of her senior ranker knights was taking that exact same test and spotted his moves right away. The second her senior described it, she just knew. In her mind, Lo was a total thief who stole the style. Lo tried defending himself, but she completely shut him down. There was zero chance the great Adol actually taught him personally. To her, it was pure comedy. A classless nobody having a direct connection to Lord Adol. Yeah, absolutely impossible. Sets bragged that she was the rightful heir to the Sword Saint style. Lord Adol himself had promised to pass it down to her. She accused Lo of finding the moves in some dusty old book and just copying them. Now he was wandering around parading a fake title, making life super annoying for the real ranker knights. But she gave him an out. Apologize right now, swear to never use the fake style again, and she would let him walk away. In response, our hero calmly stated that Lord Adol himself had actually taught him the technique. He proudly declared himself the true disciple of Adol, leaving the girl absolutely speechless. Furious, she ripped her sword out. Some lies are just too insulting to let slide without a brutal fight. To Sets, his claim completely mocked her deep respect for her master. She screamed that Lo Tulie deserved to be cut down right there. You saw this coming, right? Rank 305 officially challenged him. Zero hesitation. She rushed in, charging up a lightning-fast slash, but Lo just barely managed to block it with his own blade. Feeling the sheer weight of her attack, it hit him. Her aura was overwhelming. If he just stayed on the defensive, it was game over. Time to counter. He readied a slash, using his prana, letting that raw energy surge with absolutely incredible power. Seeing his energy, she flared her own prana to an insane level, ready to unleash a massive slash right back. Boom, they both fired off the Gale Slash. The attacks clashed, but honestly, her version was way faster than his. When the shockwave finally cleared, our boy was left with a fresh cut across his cheek. Realizing he needed to level up, he activated the Lotus technique. Sets scoffed, deciding to show him how a real master does it. She countered with the Lotus Flower. The two strikes collided again, and our hero screamed, pushing all his strength into the impact. An absolutely breathtaking sight erupted right between them. A massive lotus flower made from pure prana bloomed, two Sword Saint users clashing. Lo thought it was super weird, since masters only pass this style to one single disciple. Since he learned directly from the master, it made zero sense that Set's Aurelia could actually use this exact same technique. Her form was definitely a little rough, but her pure raw talent with a blade completely made up for it. As he desperately blocked her heavy strikes, Set's actually started wondering if his crazy story was true. But no, she trusted Lord Adel. So she started taunting him instead. She bragged about beating his Gale Slash and Lotus Bloom, mocking him to try using Furious Rupture next if he was really a disciple. That's where we leave it. Our hero simply admitted he couldn't use that third technique. Alright, let's jump into this together. She could not believe he only knew 2 techniques, but still called himself a true disciple. Lo knew that even though they were both 17, his rank was way lower across the board. Just using his sword, beating her was totally impossible. Realizing he was outmatched, he started pumping out a massive amount of prana for another power. Then he started chanting the Gentle Breeze and Scattered Cloud spell. Sets just stood there, completely shocked, seeing a rookie ranker actually using incantations. To her, his insane growth rate in the rankings was just completely unfair and incredibly frustrating. Determined to drop him in one hit, she finally made her move, convinced her insane speed would crush whatever skill he had. She was ready to defend Knight Adal's honor right then and there. She readied her own spell, knowing perfectly well that incantations were for the chosen. If he could really use them, this guy was ridiculously strong. The second our hero opened his eyes, his prana exploded as the chant finished. She launched a deadly Gale Slash right at him. The tornado-like strike hit, but it passed straight through his body. He actually activated a physical divine art to reach the celestial spirit. The attack did absolutely 0 damage. Set stared in total shock, wondering if this was some crazy defensive skill. Even though the prana around him looked like an absolute fortress, Set's got a terrible feeling about his attack. Don't blink here. Her instincts screamed to stop, but our hero instantly rushed at her. Gripping his sword with both hands, he unleashed a heavy slash. She barely dodged, even though his movements stayed exactly the same. Refusing to let him pull another wild trick out of his hat, she prepared her ultimate third technique, the Furious Rupture. But before she could even launch her attack, our boy already had his strike lined up. She panicked, realizing he wasn't even going to try blocking her move. He knew he could never survive a hit like that directly. Then unleashing an aura that literally erased existence, he slashed forward. Completely terrified, she froze as he stopped the blade inches above her head. He dropped his enchantment, powered down, and casually claimed his victory. Rook instantly called the match for him. The girl collapsed to her knees, totally stunned that she actually lost. Right after that, our hero face-planted into the dirt, completely out of energy. He claimed he was fine, but couldn't even twitch. That 5-second enchantment came with an absolutely massive toll on his body. Hearing this, Sets finally realized something. He probably passed out during the Dalkin fight from his enchantments, not just taking heavy damage. Suddenly, she burst into tears, apologizing to Lord Adol for losing. She cried out, asking why he gave the Sword Saint style to this guy. Rook gently walked over and asked if he could call her Sets. He politely explained that while knights definitely idolize the Sword Saint style, attacking someone out of nowhere was probably a bit too rash. Super curious, Rook asked if she had some special reason for obsessing over the Saint style. The girl nodded through her tears. She firmly believed she was Lord Adol's only official disciple. She explained that when her rank was completely stuck, he showed up and secretly taught her swordsmanship just one single time. From that exact moment, she was absolutely certain Lord Adol wanted her to inherit his style. You saw that twist coming, right? Aurelia explained. Adol never takes disciples, so she thought she was the one exception. She truly believed he had recognized her raw talent and was just waiting for her. Fueled by that crazy hope, she grinded non-stop hunting monsters and even kept his picture tucked in her pendant. Rook sighed, realizing she had been totally led on and acted unbearable because of Adol. Lo eventually dragged his heavy body off the ground, swearing again that he wasn't lying about the knight. He spilled the truth. He really did become Adol's disciple and learned the actual Sword Saint style from him. The girl sighed, admitting it was impossible not to recognize Lord Adol's sword. His style was 100% real, completely different from hers, which she only learned by watching from afar. She thought she had something special. It wasn't the real style, but perfectly copying a technique just by watching is still a crazy feat. It was Set's Aurelia who suggested betting their swords. If he demanded she give it up, she promised to quit being a knight today. Rook quickly stepped in, saying she didn't need to go that far. Sets agreed that anything else was fine. He had the right to demand whatever he wanted, and she would accept it. Our hero suddenly got super shy thinking about it. After thinking for a really long time, he finally decided, but she interrupted, warning him against any weird touching requests. And honestly, you and I have to laugh. He said he didn't even want that, which totally offended her. Stick with me. Our guy finally dropped his 2 massive requests. First, help him level up his adventurer rank. Second, teach him the legendary Sword Saint style. Simple enough, right? Setsu Aurelia was totally confused. Shouldn't he know the style way better than she did? He fired back, admitting he only knew 2 basic techniques and was still pretty weak. Honestly, he thought it was insane she managed to perfectly copy the style just by watching it in action. She fired right back. Even as an imitation, performing the revered Adal's moves poorly would bring massive shame to his legendary name. Even a total loser has some pride, she claimed, then asked to borrow his rank seal for a quick second. Her plan, sift through some night rank missions to help him boost his level fast. Our boy then turned to the evaluator asking if taking night missions was actually allowed. Luke explained the catch. Normally, rank-locked missions were totally off-limits, but there was a loophole he could do them if a guardian of that specific class tagged along. The hero scratched his head. Weren't night missions the absolute slowest way to boost an adventurer rank? Luke nodded, pointing out that true progression meant expanding his skill tree and covering his biggest blind spots. Things like book smarts, negotiation, and pure teamwork were absolutely vital. Grinding basic adventurer quests forever would just hardcap his growth. So, by diving into night missions right now, he'd get a massive edge over his rivals. This little detour would turn into a golden ticket for leveling up as a real adventurer. Plus, Luke noted the night ranking system was all about one major thing: absolute, unquestionable trust. It demanded raw strength, sure, but mostly dignity. A vibe Lord Adal apparently had in spades. Here's the thing you and I need to remember: the flawless picture they painted of Adal was completely different from the guy our hero actually knew. To him, Adal was a massive slacker who did everything carelessly. Hearing that description made Setsu Aurelia furious, and she immediately shot it down. Luke jumped in too, declaring Adal as a man of absolute flawless conduct. He was the undisputed greatest of all knights after all. Backing it up, Luke mentioned Adal ranked 5th among trustworthy leaders. You don't hit that tier with sword skills alone. He was universally respected by literally everyone. He even quoted an old interview where Adal dropped the most epic line after saving a village. He basically said protecting people is a knight's true duty, and their peace is the heavy, proud weight of a sword. Setsu practically memorized the exact date and details of that quote. Listening to this hardcore fanboying, our guy realized he had zero clue what his master was doing lately. Since leaving the village, their paths completely split. And honestly, even during training, Adal literally never talked about himself. It really made him wonder what his old master was up to right now. Let's switch gears so you and I can see for ourselves. Over in a ruined village swarming with monsters, a little girl cries for her mom before facing a massive, terrifying snake. At the absolute last second, a knight dashes in and wrecks the beast. He smiled, promising the girl that she was totally safe now because he was here. Right on cue, his squad rolled up. Shouting the name of the Knights of Maris, they sliced through the horde and saved the survivors. Suddenly, bam, a massive crash shook the earth, freezing the knights in panic. Enter the Tyrant Worm, a completely unhinged, danger level 11 boss monster. Pure panic set in. The squad thought it was game over and instantly wanted to fall back. But one lone knight stepped up, telling them falling back wasn't an option. He casually raised his blade and unleashed the rupture technique. One clean strike sliced the Tyrant Worm straight in half. Instant knockout. An old villager instantly recognized the #1 ranked knight. Pulling off his helmet, the hero revealed his true face: Lord Adal, the legendary commander of Maris. He fiercely declared that with him on the field, absolutely no one else would die. Overwhelmed, the entire surviving village erupted into crazy emotional cheers for Adal. Back at the royal castle, though, Adal was incredibly bored, just whining nonstop. His assistant praised his awesome victory, hyping him up before ruthlessly slamming a literal mountain of overdue paperwork right onto his desk. She reminded him he vanished for an entire year. He really owed her for making up constant, ridiculous excuses to keep the order off his back. Adal shot back, reminding her of his day one warning about keeping the order running. Sure, he'd play the perfect hero for the public eye, but he promised to vanish literally whenever he felt like it. She groaned that he never actually told her where he was sneaking off to. Dropping it, she pointed out that nasty scar on his chest, asking who gave it to him. She spotted it while he was changing after a brawl, and man, the crazy rumors flying around the order were already out of control. Giving a beast like him a scar. Trust me, you and I know that opponent was insanely skilled. Alright, let's dive into this. Adal totally agreed, but pointed out this kid was destined for absolute greatness. Deep down, Lord Adal was honestly just thrilled seeing that Lo Tulie was doing so incredibly well. Spotting him climbing the adventurer rankings, he felt like a proud dad seeing that holy sword-style progress. But logically, he figured Lo could maybe pull off 2 techniques max. I mean, climbing that insanely high in the rankings takes way more than just basic sword swinging. Adal seriously wondered if Lo actually awakened the true arts, because his prana energy, absolutely, utterly terrifying. The second their auras clashed, Adal's got instantly vaporized. Even cranking his own power up to max defense did absolutely nothing against that monster. Honestly, for a dude packing that kind of god-tier power, Lo's rank was still way too embarrassingly low. It was super obvious our boy just had absolutely no idea how to control it yet. That is exactly why Adal wanted Lo to level up like crazy. Being stuck way down at rank 10,000 was just a huge insult to his insane hidden potential. Meanwhile, Setsu Aurelia managed to score the ultimate squad mission, playing bodyguard on a massive transcontinental railroad. Their client was Thomas Bellelin, the merchant sitting comfortably at rank 33. This guy desperately needed heavy protection riding from the Kingdom of Walter straight to the Republic of Errol. Talk about an urgent gig. Rumor had it rival assassins were actively hunting him down, pushing him to hire only the absolute best experts with solid escort experience. Now watch closely, because the shady Ouroboros organization was secretly holding a villainous underground meeting. One super rogue member decided to make a move, straight up hiding his entire plan from their boss. Yeah, he totally knew it was rushing things, but the arts were just too important. They completely needed to find out exactly what stage Lo's awakening was actually at. They even figured that spilling the real truth about the Island of Gods might not be a bad idea. Maybe they could actually become best buddies with Lo if things aligned. Then, boom, the guy completely drops his hood, revealing he was literally a whole robot. He casually dropped that our boy was just a human, frantically hunting for that same legendary island. Cut to the gang arriving at Dream Zephyr Station, the epic mega railroad linking Walter directly to the Kingdom of Errol. This train was a total beast, 31 cars holding 600 passengers ready to blast through a massive 6,000-kilometer epic journey. Lo, who basically never saw a real train before, was completely mind-blown watching this metal giant zooming past so incredibly fast. They had an official meetup scheduled right there on the busy platform. Finding Thomas Bellelin was going to be a total breeze, thanks to his extremely flashy, ridiculous outfit. Since bodyguards totally need trust, Luke nudged Lo to quickly flash his rank card, hoping to score a really solid first impression right away. But wow, when Lo found the tiny merchant and flexed his card, the guy literally slapped it away. He flat out refused to trust his life to some random brat. Stepping right up, Setsu calmly asked if this dude actually bothered researching her. Thomas admitted checking her rank, but here is what you and I didn't see coming. She casually dropped that she was a Sword Saint candidate. Hearing that absolute bombshell, Thomas totally froze his eyes, popping out in pure shock. Being a Sword Saint basically meant hitting absolute first place in the night rankings. And candidate. That was the ultimate flex title given to powerhouses with enough potential to actually claim that #1 spot. Sure, rank was important, but having crazy good compatibility with the fighting style was huge. All because that specific required swordsmanship was just completely ridiculously unique. Setsu was literally the youngest candidate in history, but then she casually points at Lo, telling the merchant this kid was somehow even more overpowered than a literal Sword Saint candidate. Lo finally gave a proper introduction, and the merchant completely sold and super impressed. Then Luke jumped in as Lo's personal exclusive appraiser, making Thomas let out a massive sigh of relief. The poor guy admitted his nerves were completely fried from recent nightmares, and he couldn't even trust his very own internal staff anymore. With the shiny contract officially locked in, Thomas invited the trio back to his fancy cabin to drop all the juicy mission details on them. And just like that, they casually strolled into the golden car to start working. When asked if this was his absolute first rodeo on the Dream Zephyr, Luke totally jumped at the chance to explain the whole map. She desperately wanted to ensure he wouldn't completely mess up his bodyguard duties. First up, she showed off the bronze car for the cheapest tickets, then pointed all the way up front to their fancy destination, the VIP gold car. Meanwhile, parked way in the back in the complete opposite direction was the chaotic pet zone. Sandwiched in between, 2 restaurants, a couple of department stores, a random library, and exactly 6 shiny silver cars. Those were strictly for folks carrying a little more cash than the broke bronze section. Throw in a hospital pool and fancy dining, and they finally hit the gold casino car. So, what do you and I expect next? Trust me, the real chaos is just starting. Stick with me here, tickets for this VIP section are insanely expensive. Only the filthy rich can afford it. They got the room right next to Thomas Bellelin. Once settled, Setsu Aurelia got straight to business, grilling Thomas about the exact enemies they would face. Thomas revealed a bitter rivalry threatening his entire business. Sets casually mentioned the Laudy company, proving to the merchant they had absolutely done their homework. He instantly realized they already knew half the story. Thomas finally confirmed their mission, eliminate the deadly assassins sent by the rival Laudy company. Catching his super shady vibe, Sets knew he was hiding something. How long had he been targeted? He replied it was super recent. Basically, the enemy company just wanted to ruin all of his massive business deals over in the Republic. But when it came to the actual business details, he awkwardly begged them to stop asking questions. Trade secret or not, his lips were totally sealed about it. He then asked them to keep watch outside the car while he checked the room. Alone at last, Sets pointed out Lo's crazy record-breaking speed, climbing up the official rankings. Sure, it sounds totally impressive. but she warned that his zero experience was a massive weakness. This was his first time ever fighting a real assassin. She reminded him that rankers can never let their guard down, not even against weaklings. Lo straight up admitted his head was completely spinning from so many unknowns. Rook totally understood, reminding him he just arrived in the capital. Curious, Lo asked how the train door had randomly moved completely on its own. Rook explained it ran purely on electricity, a very special type of prana. She explained their destination, the Republic of Helio, was a global leader in prana research. They actually had the crazy technology to convert it into energy. This entire Dream Zephyr train was built using that tech. The Republic of Helio even supplied those same fancy doors to the evaluation department. Hearing this, Lo's mind was totally blown by how big the world actually was. He immediately thought of his sister Yuna. She would have absolutely loved this place, and he really wished she was here. Now, pay attention, Rook interrupted with something you really need to hear. Heading to the Republic of Helio might finally reveal real clues about the mysterious island of gods. She admitted her previous ranking investigation hit a total dead end. Everything was super vague, yielding zero hard facts. The fact that the official department literally knew absolutely nothing. Yeah, that never happens. Rook pointed out two massive mysteries surrounding Lo Tulie, his origins, and that island. Coincidence? She didn't think so. It was entirely inevitable. She strongly suspected his contact with that island was exactly what gave him those crazy special arts. Remember what Gran said, the Republic of Helio is literally the only nation advanced enough to flawlessly analyze raw prana with absolute precision. Finally, getting his prana officially analyzed, Lo was absolutely pumped to get there as fast as possible. Rook completely agreed, hyping up this magic-changing country. But then in a flash, the entire atmosphere heavily dropped. A dark presence suddenly creeped in. Sets instantly ordered everyone to just play it totally cool and act normal. The train was literally just about to depart. Perfect timing for the enemy to suddenly make their deadly move. Were the assassins actually striking right now? Just as the loud captain happily welcomed everyone aboard the departing Dream Zephyr, a massive, bizarre tremor suddenly shook the whole car, making Lo randomly stumble forward. You and I both saw that, right? That clumsy stumble literally saved his life. A throwing knife violently slashed exactly where his head just was. If he hadn't completely lost his balance by pure luck, it would have been game over right then and there. The sneaky assassin casually spun his knife. Kid got insanely lucky, but he promised there absolutely wouldn't be a second chance. Exploding with a massive wave of raw prana, he violently lunged. Prepping a fatal strike, he loudly mocked Lo's bad stance. In response to the charge, Lo instantly chucked a hunting dagger, which the guy easily just swatted away. But that was just a clever distraction. Lo beautifully feinted, sliding directly under the assassin, landing a brutal punch straight to the chest before he could even blink. He grabbed his falling sword midair, standing absolutely fearless. The assassin didn't hesitate immediately, launching a savage assault, but Lo cleanly blocked the massive blow with his wide blade. Flipping right over him, the enemy literally kicked off the ceiling for momentum, unleashing blindingly fast knife slashes from above. Despite that insane speed, Lo miraculously dodged two simultaneous strikes. Realizing the guy kept desperately targeting his solar plexus, Lo found a tiny opening. Seizing the perfect moment, he delivered a massive final blow, knocking him out cold. So what do you and I take from this? Ignoring Rook, he senses two new enemies and charges straight in. Alright, stick with me here. When he arrives, Setsu Aurelia has already dropped two assassins. She points out the ambush was lightning fast. The enemies looked completely terrified, but they attacked like absolute maniacs. Because things are getting too spicy, Setsu says they should probably pause the whole trip. But Thomas Belelkin shuts that down instantly. His business absolutely cannot wait. Since he won't budge, Setsu decides to literally take out the trash quietly. The train schedule waits for nobody. She tosses the bodies right out the window, figuring that's exactly how they sneaked inside anyway. Yeah, she admits it's a bit savage, but there's zero time to interrogate these guys or lock them up on a moving train. The easiest fix, toss them out. Plus, she figures assassins, with that kind of skill, won't just die from a little fall. Right after that, the squad meets up with Thomas for a quick strategy session. When asked how strong those assassins were, Luke guesses they sit right around rank 500 in the underworld. That means serious combat experience. Plus, they were moving with the crazy agility of a rank 300 knight. But Luke notes they aren't great in head-on fights. The guy Lo Tulie fought, for example, completely off balance. If that guy had better footing, he would have been a total nightmare. She warns everyone to expect more surprise ambushes. Even heavier hitters are probably on the way. Still, she's totally confident the team can crush anyone at that level. Now, pay close attention here. Luke starts explaining a huge concept among rankers called the digit barrier. She breaks it down. In any ranking system, the power gap at these specific boundaries is absolutely massive. Think about going from rank 10 to rank 9 or 100 down to 99. It looks like just one number, but the actual jump in power, totally insane. The biggest theory behind this is simple. Fighters literally push their bodies to the absolute limit just to cross those lines. It creates a massive chasm in skill. To put this in perspective, she points out Lo Tulie is sitting right at rank 1089 right now. That magical 3-digit barrier is staring right at him. And honestly, this specific ranking zone is pure hell. It's flooded with desperate adventurers scrambling to hit the triple digits. Because of that bloodbath, the missions here are insanely brutal. Luke says this is going to be a crazy hurdle for Lo Tulie. Knowing he needs it, and since he asked, Setsu decides it's time to train him. So they literally climb onto the roof of the speeding train, dodging extreme hurricane-level winds. Setsu uses this crazy environment to her advantage. She already figured something out when they clashed swords earlier today. Lo Tulie's prana control, super basic. He totally skipped the boring fundamentals just to learn the flashy sword moves. Now he's forcing techniques he barely understands, bleeding out massive amounts of prana like crazy. Setsu explains, the sword saint style is way deeper than he thinks. To even survive, he has to completely master advanced prana control first. Sure, our guy knows these skills are strong, but he honestly thought swinging his sword every day was enough to level up. Yeah, she shuts that down fast. Setsu tells him there's a huge fundamental flaw he has to fix immediately. Back in their duel, he fought entirely on emotion. His movements were messy and totally lacked focus. I know what you're thinking. Is she that much faster? Oh yeah. She vanishes and instantly reappears behind him, blade right at his throat. She drops a bombshell. That terrifying move, just the foundation of the sword saint style. A storm of strikes moving way too fast for the eye. That is the real essence of their school. Sadly, Lo Tulie is currently way too slow to even attempt it. But here's the good news. If he listens closely, she guarantees he can pull off the legendary third technique. It's a completely explosive, hyper-difficult move called the Raging Rupture. Setsu bluntly tells him his entire skill set is just beginner stuff. The jump in difficulty for these advanced moves is totally insane. Looking frustrated, she even admits that she hasn't mastered them herself yet. She basically just copied the style from watching, never reaching true perfection. Still, she sees massive raw potential in Lo Tulie. His form is incomplete, but he's already tapping into the true style that honestly annoys her but fuels her too. Up on that train roof, with wind screaming around them, they finally lock into their stances. The real training begins now. Setsu mentions this specific move is rare even among all the sword saint techniques. She remembers Lord Adal saying, it has limited uses, but it lets you wipe out a massive crowd of enemies instantly. Hearing his master's name makes Lo Tulie snap to attention. He instantly remembers Adal using raw prana to fire off an earth-shattering slash. Watching that man literally cut an entire mountain in half left Lo Tulie completely speechless just 1 year ago. He thinks about that wild memory constantly. In that split second, Adal didn't even look like a normal human being anymore. Trust me, Setsu's first lesson kicks off in the craziest way. Let's dive into this wild training arc. She pulls out a cheap store-bought rope, making Lo Tulie sweat, and asks if she is tying him up. She says no, casually flicking her wrist and tossing that rope miles away with zero effort. Setsu grins and tells him the deal. If he can pull off that exact same move, class dismissed. Feeling way too confident, our guy tries copying her. He chucks that rope with absolute maximum effort. But nope, that rope comes flying right back and smacks him straight in the face. The brutal wind on top of the moving train completely rejects it. Setsu Aurelia sighs. That right there is exactly why he needs actual speed and control. The rope is basically weightless, meaning it takes insane precision to slice through those crazy winds. She jumps right back into the prana lesson, explaining that energy gets way stronger the faster it flows. It can crash like a rushing river or a literal waterfall. Lo needs to learn how to instantly channel that raw power wherever he wants, into his hands, feet, or even his eyes. And the catch, he has to stay perfectly stable even when burning through his absolute maximum power limit. So our wild ranker gives it another shot. He shoves all his prana into his arm and throws, but yeah, the rope barely even moves forward. Setsu Aurelia instantly calls out his trash technique. She reminds him that real prana always starts straight from the center of the chest. Because of that rule, he absolutely must learn to control exactly how long it takes for the energy to travel down to his limbs. Lo goes for attempt number 3. He cranks up his prana output and concentrates harder than ever before. But Setsu immediately shuts him down. She snaps that he is doing the exact opposite of the goal, yelling at him for relying on pure dumb brute force again. She warns him he will never master the real technique like this. Tossing prana around like a maniac is just going to make his body super unstable. She breaks the issue down step by step, laying out the exact energy flow he has to master. By this point, Lo has basically burned through a totally absurd amount of prana. Setsu runs the numbers. If passing the lesson costs 1 point, he is throwing away 10 just trying to force it. Even with his massive energy tank, that is completely unsustainable. Keep playing like this, and he is going to run completely dry in no time. The actual point of Lesson 1 is pure efficiency and prana control. It is not about just flexing giant bursts of raw power. Lo just argues back proudly, stating he never runs out of fuel. He claims he can push way more prana than that without even breaking a sweat. Now watch closely because Setsu changes tactics. Since he is so stubborn about his endless stamina, she flat out challenges him to drop his entire prana reserve at once. Our guy does not hesitate for even a split second. He instantly starts unleashing his aura. Boom. A completely ridiculous amount of prana explodes in every direction, literally bending the hurricane winds right off the top of the train. Aurelia is stunned. She knew he was strong, but this level of power absolutely shatters every single expectation she had. Inside the train, Thomas Balulin and Luke physically feel the shockwave of that massive energy release. Before a deafening boom shakes the roof, Luke instantly recognizes the aura. He realizes the sheer volume of prana is way bigger than the last time he felt it. She realizes, completely shocked, that Lo Tulie just got even stronger. Meanwhile, lurking in the passenger cars, one of the assassins senses that monstrous pressure and immediately goes on high alert. The killer starts sweating, realizing there is an absolute monster aboard. Someone rocking a prana level matching a legendary single-digit ranker. The assassin panics slightly. There are only 12 hours left before the next mission phase. Having a wild card like this guy around could completely ruin their entire assassination plot. Back up on the roof, the crushing prana from Lo Tulie is just completely dominating the entire area. Setsu is terrified, questioning how someone packing this much godlike power can even maintain a normal human body. But honestly, she feels pretty lucky. An aura this terrifying is guaranteed to scare off any approaching enemies. You and I both know the truth now. She realizes his raw prana ranks among the world's best, finally admitting that Lord Ad's student is an absolute monster. Later on, Setsu catches up with Luke, heavily relieved that the first stage of this crazy training is over. She reveals the whole plan has 3 lessons total. And starting tomorrow morning, Part 2 is going to be 1,000 times more brutal. Noticing Thomas Balulin hiding out in his room, she brings up his prana, noting that very few people can actually wield that power properly. The chat shifts back to Lo. Setsu points out that prana control is basic stuff for swordsmen, yet he wastes massive amounts daily. Honestly, he is not even using 1/10 of his power right. Realizing the coast is clear, they get straight to business mode. Setsu hands Luke a super detailed dossier on the VIP they are supposed to protect. Luke is genuinely blown away by all the detailed info on the personality and tastes of Thomas Balulin. She points out that the standard habit of hiring armed knights for security is definitely not just for flexing. Setsu Aurelia casually explains that 1/3 of this intel is basic order knowledge. Literally, any ranker from the Marcus Knights would memorize this stuff. That is when Luke discovers their target, Thomas Balulin, actually holds 33rd place in the official merchant rankings. The man is 46 years old, and currently serves as the 2nd-generation president of the Balulin Trading Company. That is where we leave it. His retail company runs the Belly department stores, but originally started as Balulin Pharmaceuticals. Stick with me here, this small medicine company blew up fast under Thomas's dad. Thomas kept that massive expansion rolling, opening 8 department stores and turning the business into the absolute biggest of its kind in the entire country. Hearing all this backstory, Luke points out that Thomas genuinely sounds like an incredibly solid good guy. But Setsu Aurelia completely shuts that down, warning them about his super short fuse. She figures his totally paranoid vibe about their skills comes straight from those exact 2 personality traits. Setsu also guesses that even though he is quietly hiding in his room right now, the guy will eventually get bored and wander out. Catching a break in the conversation, Luke decides to drop the intel he dug up on those assassins. Showing off some incredibly logical evaluation department data, he questions if the bad guys from the Dalin Iris fight might have abused that rank cell retrieval trick again. Luke breaks it down. Out in the dangerous forest zones, basic transmitters just do not exist. They completely block regular signals for safety, meaning ranking updates rely totally on a special encrypted line. Standard communicators can do a bunch of stuff but have 0 range, while long-distance gear needs basic relay towers. Here is where things get interesting. Setsu points out those 3 assassins were definitely working as one. The timing of their ambush was way too flawless for random killers who usually just take solo jobs. That insane level of teamwork perfectly proves they were hired together. She explains that tracing one random hitman is basically impossible, but an entire team is way sloppier. You can track their specific hunting grounds, overall power levels, and even the exact brands of their weapons. Piecing that together, she is absolutely positive they belong to Despotata, a notorious assassin squad sitting at rank 49 in the underworld. And it gets worse. Despotata is actually just a subsidiary branch of Desdora. That is the 6th most terrifying criminal syndicate on the entire ladder. Despotata's bosses are literally high-ranking elite killers dispatched straight down from Desdora headquarters. She drops a massive warning: if their elites are riding this train, things will get way more chaotic than they can possibly handle. Meanwhile, lurking somewhere else on the train, the underworld operative decodes a cipher confirming all traps are set. Chilling by the window, he spots his lackeys totally sweating from that intense prana earlier. He really wanted to just retire peacefully without getting bloody, but clearly that plan is totally ruined now. Pulling off a glove, he steps up. Meet Joman Temple, the terrifying number 108 ranked assassin. The very next morning, Thomas Balulan struts downstairs and aggressively devours a massive breakfast. He brags that the meal is worth every single cent of the high price, complaining that tasting the food beforehand just to check for poison was a total pain. Glancing over at Luke, he casually tells her not to hold back. After all, she is the official evaluator. Luke shoots back that an evaluator's job means living the exact same lifestyle as the rankers to properly judge them. Feeling super satisfied, Thomas demands they guard his life while he takes a lazy stroll to digest everything. He then wanders over to a jewelry selection, finding absolutely everything magnificent. But he violently complains about the terrible ceramic choices until his eyes lock onto a fresh mason piece that he calls pure art. You and I are definitely wondering the exact same thing. Why let him go shopping right now? Setsu calmly explains that a stressed-out client is a total nightmare, so letting him blow off steam is smarter. Keeping him happy means he will actually obey orders when things get deadly. The knight then strongly stressed that they needed to stay on high alert and stick close. Luke quickly flips the subject, asking about Lo Tulie's training, since Setsu Aurelia honestly acts like a total drill sergeant. Lo Tulie brushes it off, claiming he feels fine because he is mastering how to use his prana more efficiently. Super curious, Luke asks if the guy has ever actually drained his prana doing something other than using his arts. She thinks the situation is strange since normal prana training literally requires exhausting your energy multiple times to strengthen it. Lo fires back, with logic, you do not always run just to make yourself completely out of breath. He drops the wild idea that his prana reserves might just be ridiculously massive. Luke completely agrees his energy is huge, but points out it all vanishes in literally one single instant when he attacks. Originally, she assumed Lo's power was literally just deleting absolutely everything he tapped. But if that was actually true, the floor should have vanished into thin air too. There are definitely skills that wipe things out on contact, but his drain is so massive that something way crazier has to be happening to justify it. Trust me, we gotta hear her wild hypothesis. Alright, let's dive right in. You and I are about to watch the wildest ability unfold, a skill that literally erases any inconvenience. Luke completely agrees with this crazy theory, but she quickly shuts that down. He's definitely not invincible, because this crazy power comes with massive drawbacks. We're talking the absolute worst prana drain ever. Plus, he completely passes out after using it. One single use. That's it. After that, his body is basically paralyzed for a while. High risk, low reward. Classic Manhwa logic. Right then, Setsu Aurelia returns with bad news. The assassins are still playing hide and seek. Our boy realizes they have zero choice. Full survival mode activated. Then, bam, the train lights cut out, pitch black in a single second. Lo instantly gets it. A classic villain move to blind the crowd and spark total panic. And right on cue, Thomas Balulan starts screaming his lungs out. Sets tells him to shut his mouth, but it's too late. An assassin strikes. She perfectly blocks the blade, realizing these guys use Thomas's dumb screaming to pinpoint their exact location. She tries scanning for the enemy's prana, but it's completely useless. There are way too many panicking passengers packed inside to lock onto the killers. Lo sees her struggling and asks a simple question. Would some light fix this? He doesn't even wait for her answer. He just bolts, shouting to protect Thomas. In one epic motion, he stabs the ceiling, sucking in massive prana from the outside. Boom, a blinding green light erupts, lighting up the entire train car. The clueless passengers. They literally think it's just some beautiful magic show. Classic background character behavior. Now pay attention, because this is where it gets crazy. Lo has to hold that light, turning himself into a giant glowing target for the assassin behind him. Enter Joan Topol, rank 108th. He spots the prana source and delivers a massive punch that sends our boy flying through the air. But Lo-hee lands perfectly on his feet. He draws his sword, aiming right at the enemy. The assassin smirks, time to hunt monsters. Meanwhile, Sets is totally separated. Another killer lunges with a dagger and she instantly spots the black-painted blade. These guys came fully prepared for war. It hits her, they sent their absolute top-tier assassins to wipe out Lo as fast as possible. And honestly, she's pissed they underestimated her. Her massive prana immediately flares up. Sensing a sneak attack, she effortlessly dodges and delivers a lethal counter, instantly dropping one guy dead. You saw that too, right? The other assassin is absolutely terrified, realizing she just detonated her prana to blow up his buddy. In literally a fraction of a second, she swung 3 times, sparkling cuts floating around her like deadly flakes of light. It's an insane art that hides its prana completely. The surviving killer hesitates, smelling a trap, but he knows he has to take her out before the train lights kick back on. He recognizes it, the legendary sword saint style, an art of perfectly overlapping slashes that maintains absolute balance and ridiculous power. Sets is literally creating a minefield of invisible floating slashes that detonate the exact second an enemy steps into her zone. Those glowing flakes gather and explode into a massive prana shockwave, instantly erasing the assassin. To Aurelia, this technique is sheer invincibility, and she knows full well she's the only one alive who can perfect it. Flashback time. We see our hero sweating it out, practicing his moves with a whip. Set smiles, praising his progress. She tells him to memorize that exact feeling, the technique of flow. It's a ridiculously rare skill for his current rank, usually locked to elite fighters. That's exactly why she believes in him. If he masters this flow, his power control is going to jump to an absolutely insane new level. Snapping back to reality, our boy blasts his prana, staring down the axe-wielding maniac. The big guy reads his energy. In a flash, they charge and their heavy blades collide. Instantly, our hero panics. The assassin realizes exactly what he's doing with that flow. While blocking, his sword actually begins to crack. A brutal impact shoves him backward hard. Only now do the screaming passengers finally realize an actual deathmatch is happening here. Rank 108th smirks. The kid's got massive potential, but too bad it all has to end right here, right now. The hero sweats. This guy is on a totally different tier. He's stupidly strong and basically a grandmaster at using flow. He actually wonders if this monster is one of those legendary Despota elites. Gripping his cracked blade, he activates his flow and charges. Trust me, you're going to want to see how this absolutely wild fight ends. The assassin notices our guy's prana control is absolute garbage. Such a massive waste, considering his raw power basically looks like a cheat code handed down from the heavens. Let's be real here, you and I both know, anyone born with this much juice usually gets forced into hardcore training. But he figures this kid actually flunked out, stopping him from unlocking his true terrifying potential. So he decides to crush him right now before he mutates into an unstoppable monster. He admits that if the kid actually knew what he was doing, he'd be dead meat. Then boom, he flares his own prana and swings his massive axe with bone-crushing force. Lo finally gets what's going wrong. His energy control is just way too sloppy. Worse, his wild power totally clashes with his super refined sword saint technique. It's obvious when he attempts the prana self-destruction technique. He just can't use both skills together. Still, he unleashes a bunch of high-tier energy slashes at his enemy. The killer effortlessly sidesteps every single one, laughing at how much this drains our hero. Just another total waste of talent. Then the dude literally chucks his heavy axe straight at Lo's head. Luckily, he dodges. The heavy weapon slams right into the train car's thick metal wall. Yanking it out, he creatively kicks a cloud of sharp debris right at our boy. Lo blocks it, but the heavy impact leaves him totally dazed. The elite hitman loves a free opening, immediately charging in for another lethal axe swing. Lo barely gets his blade up in time, but the nasty angle nearly snaps his precious sword perfectly in half. It suddenly clicks, this assassin is evolving mid-fight. He isn't just a brute. The guy is actually using his brain out there. Lo tells himself he can't lose a battle of adaptability. He's survived way scarier monsters. After all, the core of the sword, saint style, is all about constant evolution. Lo shifts his footing, dropping into a new stance, and lets his prana erupt wildly. Now pay close attention here, because he finally merges his lotus blossom with the gale slash, firing both moves simultaneously straight at his enemy. But as the killer raises his guard, he realizes something is very wrong. These high-speed slashes suddenly look like thousands of deadly arrows. They perfectly overlap on impact, creating a literal wall of inescapable death. Oddly enough, the villain feels the hits are super weak, so he easily swats them away. Lo smirks. Yeah, they're weak from switching speeds, but guess what? They explode, and that is more than enough to pin this guy down. Channeling every ounce of control, he condenses his power into one epic strike. The assassin absolutely panics before taking a devastating blow straight to the gut. Riding that epic hype, Lo follows up, slamming the hitman down into the floor. He breathes a massive sigh of relief. Victory. But wait, a crushing pressure suddenly forces his own body down to the dirt. The bleeding assassin laughs, revealing his axe was coated in a nasty poison. One tiny scratch equals instant death. Lo freezes. He remembers getting grazed back when the weapon hit the wall. Desperate, he demands the antidote right now. I know exactly what you're thinking. He's totally gonna hand it over, right? Nope. He cruelly crushes it. Lo watches in pure horror as the villain says, it's time for this monster to die. With perfect timing, his three companions finally show up. They see his ghost white face and immediately panic. Setsu Aurelia spots the shattered glass, realizing the only real cure is gone, and basic train meds won't save him. Coughing, Lo tells them to back the heck up. He wants to try a crazy experiment. Time for his secret weapon. He busts out the Tulie tribe's unique art, the legendary descent of the celestial spirit, hoping it can purge this toxic junk. Surging pure prana through his veins, he literally flushes the lethal poison out. He's alive, and everyone's jaws drop. Then the intercom randomly chimes in, thanking passengers for enjoying the surprise action performance in their car. It casually reminds folks to grab their personal luggage before hopping off the train. It also bans anyone heading to the Republic of Ariel from leaving. Setsu laughs, noting the train staff followed their script perfectly. Thomas Bellalin smirks and flexes hard. Of course they listened. He basically dumped a massive fortune into funding this railway. This rich kid totally covered up their chaotic brawl, while Setsu convinced everyone they were just watching an improvised flash mob. Hey, even if people are suspicious, throwing some apology cash at them fixes literally everything in this world. Back to business, Luke walks up to Lo Tulie, claiming he finally decoded his ridiculous healing skill. He explains that the celestial spirit art isn't just about healing. The true core is pure survival. It literally deletes anything harming the user, whether that's incoming strikes or deadly internal poison. So broken. But he warns there's a huge catch. Breaking the laws of nature leaves Lo completely paralyzed during the process. So what do you and I take from this wild reveal? The skill lasts exactly 10 seconds, but for those 10 seconds he is completely invincible and can body absolutely anyone. Knowing a guaranteed win is his if he just drags the fight out, Lo completely agrees. Stick with me here, strategy is absolutely everything when using these arts. Intrigued, Setsu Aurelia asks how he beat a superior assassin. He simply explains he used the lotus converting slashes into gales, entirely focused on landing pure hits. He reminds them that the gale and the lotus are just basic techniques of the sword saint style. Lo explains, the absolute best part of these techniques is their crazy flexibility, especially the lotus, which has endless uses. He proved he could throw it straight at enemies, stick it to random objects, or even detonate it way later. Setsu notes, this totally differs from the galaxy style, which relies purely on constant shifting. She promises to break down these major swordsmanship styles way more later on. To her, he is finally worthy of the sword saint style. With that, they prep for lesson 2. He casually thanks Setsu Aurelia, claiming her training was actually way better than Adal's classes. That comparison absolutely enrages her. She screams that it is absurd, since Lord Adal offers the best teachings globally. Furious, she points her sword right at him, assuming he is just bragging about studying under such an important VIP. Classic anime misunderstanding. The hero was just giving a genuine compliment, but she totally missed his point. The chat shifts to their enemies. Setsu Aurelia figures they might retreat since Lo Tulie crushed a skilled Despotata member, but Luke completely corrects her. That assassin was basically a grunt, absolutely nowhere near the top ranks. Now listen closely. If a true elite ambushed them, they would have died the exact second those lights went out. Luke grimly admits this fight is far from over. Honestly, they have just been insanely lucky so far. Meanwhile, at the central station, a little girl watches this completely creepy clown just juggling his knives. The clown thinks to himself, if the kid messes up, he will handle this train job personally. He figures their first guy lost because he was rusty, basically doing nothing but boring desk work lately. With this massive failure ruining their plans, the clown decides he has absolutely no choice but to board. Suddenly, a gold coin drops. When someone tries grabbing it, the clown aggressively steps in, barking at them to back off. He snatches it desperately, muttering that his old beggar instincts are flaring up. He literally survived on handouts back then. Right then, some guy bumps into him and apologizes. The clown spots his unique face, asking if he is from the Republic. The dude wearing a metal mask confirms it, claiming he is finally heading home to meet someone incredibly important. Back on the train, our hero rejoins the squad, and Setsu asks if he actually got any sleep. He casually replies that he really did, and apparently even sleep-talked. With the night passing peacefully, he asks their distance from the Republic of Ariel. Luke confirms they are already halfway there after leaving the central station last night. Thomas Bellalin has been super paranoid since the attack. He abruptly announces it is lunchtime and retreats to his room to eat. Taking full advantage, Setsu brings up the defeated assassin. She argues that while he looked pretty tough, someone way stronger and far more skilled is definitely coming next. Knowing this, she confronts Thomas Bellalin head-on, asking if he is hiding a secret. The guy breaks into a cold sweat, stuttering about why she is suspicious. You and I both saw this coming, right? Nobody sends elite assassins for a boring corporate dispute like he claimed. She knows there is a darker reason for this chase, dropping a heavy ultimatum. Stay quiet, and the mission gets cancelled completely. Setsu bluntly points out that hiding critical details gives them every right to just back out and avoid deadly fights. She wraps up, noting that with Luke on their team, the evaluation department will blindly side with their decision anyway. Panicking, Thomas Bolokin promises to explain everything, offering way more money if they just keep protecting his life. He drops the bomb. He is secretly negotiating mining rights for a rare material called insect steel, the raw ingredient for papillon. Thomas explains, papillon is a highly illegal drug made completely from powder processed right out of this special steel. As long as you have the materials, it is incredibly easy to make, ruining any monopoly chances. However, massive demand guarantees insane profits, essentially making it the #1 extra income source financing underground cartels. Deadly criminal organizations have been abusing papillon since it first hit the streets. So what do we take from this? Our guy is not just dodging corporate rivals, he is dodging entire cartels. The hero simply asks why he needs the insect steel anyway, and Thomas gets super defensive and worked up. Alright, stick with me here. His total sincerity actually convinces our squad to keep pushing with this mission. Setsu notices the danger is spiking again, exactly like the Azaban forest. Higher difficulty means a much higher rank. She completely embraces this crazy luck. A super dangerous mission is literally the perfect excuse to level up and snatch better rewards. Her ultimate goal, skyrocket her rank, inherit the legendary Sword Saint style, and snatch Lord Adao's throne as the #1 knight. She figures that hitting the absolute top will finally make Lord Adao respect her. Since they are stuck together on this job, she decides to kickstart Lo Tulie's training again. Setsu casually mentions their last enemy was way stronger than expected, so they have to perfect Lo's energy flow fast, especially since he can actually trigger it. She explains that flow completely changes how you fight. The second lesson, pure maintenance, and keeping that power totally stable. To pull this off, she orders Lo to sprint outside the train. He absolutely panics seeing that crazy speed. Meanwhile, a creepy little metallic bug is secretly spying on their entire chat. A sketchy cyborg guy spots Lo with his crew, realizing they are on a standard escort job. He thinks it's wild they just survived a total bloodbath in the forest, yet keep grinding ranks to reach the island of gods. Now, pay attention. Elsewhere, an insane clown is brutally destroying 3 guys. These are the exact assassins who totally choked. He trashes them for being flashy, yelling that their shadowy organization actually has a reputation. Crying the goons claim the guards were a hunter knight and a swordswoman with monster energy. The psycho clown decides to hunt the knight himself, since that spicy prana energy is super easy to track down. Catching his totally useless goons trying to ditch through the window, he just mercilessly executes them. Leaning out the window, he readies his blades and chucks 2 of them straight at our hero's passing train. But boom, the cyborg guy fires from his own window, sniping those knives right out of midair. Crisis completely averted. The clown is just left standing there, totally stunned. The cyborg avoids direct conflict, but figures, if Lo Tulie's wild training actually awakens his true power, it is a huge win for his bosses. So he decides to just use this trigger-happy clown as a violent little guinea pig. A tiny metal beetle lands right on the clown's shoulder and violently stings his neck. The guy screams in absolute agony as a heavy dose of nanomachines directly floods his veins. Calculating 7 minutes until full monster mode, the cyborg hopes this jacked-up clown will push Lo Tulie past his limits. You saw that right. Anyway, Lo is literally sprinting outside the moving train. He desperately chases that insane speed until his legs give out. Setsu simply tosses him a rope, which he catches. Channeling her energy flow, she just yanks him back on board. He realizes his body isn't an infinite battery like his prana, and going too hard might totally wreck this mission. When Setsu asks, he confidently smirks. He finally gets what this second brutal lesson is about. Basic running was worthless. Hitting the dirt again, he blasts prana into his feet to sprint like crazy, maintaining the flow. He actually outruns the train, but one tiny power glitch makes him faceplant instantly into the dirt. Still, he's totally hyped. He feels the rhythm now, knowing he just needs practice to balance his squishy body with that godlike flow. Setsu actually praises his fast progress before Lo randomly asks where their strict evaluator Luke went. Turns out she's aggressively interrogating Thomas and digging through his background for any shady details. Thomas swears he isn't dealing illegal stuff, but they suspect he might be plotting a totally different crime. If he is guilty, this entire escort job gets scrapped. But Setsu seriously doubts he's evil. She remembers him bragging happily about his shop and actually hyping up a rival boss. Lo completely agrees, figuring he is just a normal merchant. Setsu nods along. She points out that greedy, money-obsessed guys don't drop such genuinely nice compliments. Plus, Thomas tossed fortunes at rehab clinics, so she decides to just chill and wait for Luke's report, betting the guy is totally innocent. Before that crazy assassin crashes the party, Setsu drops the final training lesson. Fusing flow with Sword Saint style. That's where we leave it. Trust me, you'll want to see this. Stick with me here. She tells Lo to keep his flow active the entire time. Right on cue, a creepy clown drops from the ceiling. He lands perfectly, joking that his timing could not be better. Setsu instantly guesses he eavesdropped on everything. And yep, that robotic beetle was definitely recording their entire private conversation. Luke pops out of nowhere, but Lo screams at him to fall back. Meanwhile, our boy scans the enemy. 180 centimeters, 80 kilograms. Judging by his build, he is from the northwest continent. Those massively overdeveloped forearms, a dead giveaway. He belongs to the notorious Despada organization. No weapons visible, but Lo knows this guy is high tier. His raw strength is terrifying. It is Nile Shooter, the 21st ranked assassin. Setsu confirms the massive threat level. Anything he touches instantly turns into a lethal weapon. And Nile wastes absolutely zero time showing off. Random junk flies at Lo, who barely dodges. Then comes a literal sofa. Lo dodges by a hair, realizing Setsu's warning absolutely saved his life. He has never faced a throwing expert like this. Looking closer, he spots something chilling. The clown's dead eyes prove technology is controlling him. That explains the insane brute force and blank face. But Setsu spots worse news. Now you have to watch closely. He charges every projectile with aura like a literal cannon. Things are getting way too dangerous. Lo tells Setsu to grab Luke and Thomas and run. Weirdly enough, the clown only cares about Lo. Setsu is totally baffled why completely ignore Thomas, the actual mission target. Well, his third lesson was practical combat. Lo smiles, this is the perfect training dummy. Time to test his flow in real combat. Setsu agrees and promises backup. She evacuates the other two immediately. Left alone, Lo drops into a ready battle stance. Bam! The clown unleashes incredibly fast, chaotic strikes. Lo swings his blade, deflecting the powered-up projectiles. Suddenly, two heavy objects fly at him simultaneously. For a split second, our hero hesitates, trapped. Reacting instantly, he channels aura into both feet and fists. It is time to stop playing defense and start attacking. With crazy fast footwork, he slips past the danger and slashes hard, sending the projectiles flying. I know what you are thinking. To Lo, this freaky clown is just another stepping stone. But Nile actually had a deeply tragic backstory. He was a circus orphan destined to be sold into human trafficking. Desperate to survive, little Nile secretly copied the tricks of the older troupe members. He completely outshined the lazy juggler and stole his spotlight to stay useful. He practiced his throwing skills constantly, terrified that one mistake meant getting thrown away forever. Even when the circus went bankrupt, he kept juggling to survive on the streets until an assassin finally found him. It was fate. His natural talent for murder completely woke up. Combined with his flawless accuracy, he became a monster. Taking out countless bad guys, he earned that rank 21 title. But look at him now. Just a brainwashed puppet for some shady scientist. Stripped of his humanity, he relentlessly hunts Lo. Our boy dodges gracefully until Nile smashes a chandelier for a distraction. Using the chaos, Nile pounces, slashing wildly and hurling even more deadly junk at him. His own destruction provides an endless supply of fresh ammunition. Lo cannot get anywhere near him while he is armed. So he waits for the absolute perfect opening. He lets the debris fly past, then fires off a gale skill. That blast instantly wipes out the ammo. Using his flow, Lo clears the gap in a flash and rushes him, but Nile stomps the floor, shattering it completely to create brand new weapons, launching a crazy barrage. At this point, the train is totally wrecked. Somehow, our hero dodges the final strike and teleports right behind the clown. He launches a massive surprise attack through a hole he blasted in the ceiling. Jumping up, the epic showdown continues on the roof. Lo keeps pumping prana through his body. He knows copying a true master's technique is the ultimate cheat code here. He had legendary teachers like the noble knight Lord Adal himself. Humanity's strongest warrior, a sword saint, and an assassin trained him. So tell me, does this clown even stand a chance? Stick with me here. Lo knew he had to totally change his perspective, realizing he just couldn't move normally while using the flow. The guy could barely even run, which meant his original sword saint style was completely useless in this state. That older form was just a temporary fix anyway. So now Lo had to literally rebuild his entire combat style from the ground up. He needed to adapt his blade to the prana flow, finally mastering Lord Adal's authentic technique. Firing off the blade of the island technique, he unleashed a massive gale force slash straight at the killer clown. The clown completely blocked the strike, looking totally unharmed. But then vital fluid started leaking everywhere. The freak was heavily damaged. Lo smirked, realizing his brand new combo of the flow and sword style actually worked. He was actually mastering Lord Adal's legendary sword saint style. Next up was the third technique, Fury for Cataclysm. But right then, Lo caught a terrifying detail. The clown's eyes hid some kind of weird mechanical tech. He realized something chilling. The robot controlling this freak didn't care about his shiny new saint style at all. This thing specifically wanted Lo Tulie's secret tribal art. Now watch this closely. The clown suddenly unleashed an absolutely overwhelming torrent of prana. Lo noticed 2 different colors of prana swirling around the enemy but shook it off. No time to think, just focus on surviving the fight. Right then, the absolute lunatic ripped his own shirt open, revealing a deadly hidden weapon. This clown was terrifyingly strong, and worse, he was completely loaded with extra daggers. Channeling that dual-colored prana, the freak launched a barrage of blades. Lo swept his sword using fierce wind to deflect every single attack, keeping the pressure on and trying to advance. But then his body completely froze. A massive wave of heaviness hit him, definitely a nasty side effect of mixing the sword saint style and the flow. His prana was totally overflowing, draining him fast. Trembling uncontrollably, he looked up, and the clown was gone. Out of nowhere, a literal tree came flying at him. Dodging for his life, the exhausted hero spotted the clown sprinting through the dense forest. The madman was keeping pace with the train, ripping trees right out of the ground. This pure chaos totally reminded him of his old fight against Dawn. Refusing to let those massive trees hit the train and ruin their mission, he decided to intercept the clown in midair. To pull it off, he focused prana into his feet. He launched himself into a massive leap, refusing to lose a clash of pure power. The second Lo used the island's power, the robot knew its moment had come. The clown vaulted at him with terrifying speed, and our hero braced for a brutal head-on collision. But at the very last second, the freak grabbed Lo's heel, preparing to slam him. You and I both know that slam would be fatal, right? Out of options, Lo had zero choice but to trigger a forbidden secret technique. He started chanting the ancient Tulie tribe incantation, and that was exactly what the robot wanted. Spotting the robot, our boy wondered if it was just backup, but it was too late to cancel his tribal art now. The machine coldly announced it was finally analyzing Lo Tulie's legendary art. Out of nowhere, sharp claws blasted toward him, screeching loudly as the pure prana massively boosted the attack's sheer destructive power. It confirmed the power to warp reality, but noted the main connection to Babel had completely failed. Even with the failure, the energy drain was brutal. Our guy just collapsed totally out of gas. Mocking him, the machine asked if that was his limit, formally introducing itself as Gem Contra from Ouroboros. Lo had literally never heard of this shady crime syndicate before. Gem explained that Ouroboros was also hunting for the legendary Island of the Gods. Deeming the clown totally useless now, Gem casually blasted him to bits, leaving Lo absolutely speechless. Immediately after, a creepy mechanical beetle crawled out of the corpse, flying back to Gem's shoulder. Gem bragged that this was a prison beetle, a twisted little prana-powered terminal of its own design. Not just for comms, this nasty bug injects nanomachines into people, completely turning them into living terminals. Basically, it could pump prana into anyone and hijack their body. But suddenly, Setsu Aurelia burst onto the scene. Seeing Lo collapsed, she rushed over instantly, realizing he'd burned out all his energy using his forbidden tribal art. Boom! A lethal prana blast from Gem flew right at her, but Setsu cleanly dodged the hit. The robot coldly told her to back off, claiming her life meant nothing. But seeing her in danger, Lo started forcing prana out, struggling back to his feet. Gem immediately noticed his prana flaring back to life. It realized Lo was the type to turn pure crisis into raw power, guessing some tragic past trauma fueled him. So, what happens next? Gem snapped its fingers, hacking the train to maximum speed, and trust me, you're not ready for this ride. Alright, stick with me here. The robot taunted Louis, demanding his full power, or a ton of passengers were going to die. With those innocent lives on the line, our hero pushed himself back up, screaming in absolute pure rage. Out of nowhere, Setsu Aurelia flashed behind the robot, landing a massive direct strike right on its neck. But boom, her attack bounced straight off a sudden invisible barrier. This shield was insanely tough. Right then, Luke swooped in to save Louis, grabbing his shoulders and dragging him out of the danger zone. The machine didn't even bother chasing them down. It completely lost interest since Louis couldn't use his tribe's secret arts anymore. Gem Contra even mocked that the kid didn't look like a Despotada member. This immediately made Setsu question this enemy's true affiliation and goal. Trying to push his buttons, Gem casually asked if killing Setsu would finally motivate Louis. Annoyed that this guy could not just have a normal conversation, Setsu locked in. The fight was officially on. On one side, Setsu Aurelia Knight ranked 305. On the other, Gem Contra, the Prana Scholar, ranked number 2. An absolute all-out battle exploded between them, while Luke carried Louis far away. Setsu quickly figured the runaway train was the robot's fault, realizing it had activated a tricky rear guard technique. As the epic clash continued, the evaluator dragged Louis all the way back to the distant hospital car. Luke hid the boy in a private silver car room, demanding to know who that villain was. Louis dropped the bomb. He was Ouroboros, leaving Luke in pure shock. She knew exactly how many horrific crimes that group had committed. Now pay close attention here. Ouroboros is the absolute top-tier evil organization. They are the most terrifying criminals alive, and now they were on this exact train hunting Thomas. But then it clicked. Luke realized their real target on board was actually Louis, not Thomas Balulin at all. Stressed out, she decided to look into Louis later. She laid him down on the medical bed, frantically planning her next move. Luke fully understood that taking on Ouroboros alone was pretty much a guaranteed death sentence. But fighting wasn't even an option right now. If she didn't stop this runaway train, everybody was doomed. This was no simple escort mission anymore, and the total lack of backup was seriously making her nervous. Right on cue, Thomas Balulin walked in. He wanted to check on Louis, refusing to just hide in his room during a massive crisis like this. He instantly spotted Louis' severe prana deficiency and decided an aggressive, risky treatment was the only way. Thomas checked the medical supplies, confirmed they had enough, and started prepping. Turns out he was actually a pharmacist's son. Luke gently asked him to watch over Louis. She had to go stop this out-of-control train before it was too late. Without another word, she sprinted straight for the cockpit to fix this insane mess. Over the blaring loudspeakers, the captain desperately ordered every single passenger to brace for impact and evacuate. Panic set in. Everyone sprinted for the back cars. Through the chaos, Luke used her eagle eyes, spotting a mechanic ranker and demanding his help. She literally spotted him just from the heavy calluses on his fingers. She sent him straight to the engineer cabin, and he ran. Luke explained that evaluators are elite observers who handle impossible problems all by themselves. You and I know what that means. Their vision is insanely well trained. She knew exactly which specific rankers could fix this disaster and exactly how many she needed to recruit. So she shouted into the panicked crowd, hunting for any mechanics at level 40 or higher, plus level 120 Prana scholars. Meanwhile, Thomas carefully administered that intense medicine to Louis. He figured the kid must be super suspicious. Maybe thinking Thomas faked a request just so some villain could profit off insect steel drugs. But surprisingly, Louis didn't doubt him at all. As a ranker, he knew reaching level 33 was insane. Balulin definitely grinded for years to achieve that rank. Louis looked right at him, saying he completely trusted the mustache man's hard work. Deeply moved by this unexpected trust, Thomas promised he would save his life just this once. He warned that this extreme medicine would actually shorten his lifespan. But hey, slightly shorter life is way better than dying right now. He then asked the young adventurer to protect him later. Thomas knew Louis wasn't the kind of guy to just lay down and quit. Suddenly, a wave of old memories hit Thomas. He remembered growing up desperate for cash. His dad was a genuinely sweet guy, but completely terrible at running any business. Because of their poverty, his mom packed up and vanished. From then on, Thomas and his dad were endlessly mocked, treated like a totally pathetic family. That constant obsession with money ate him alive, finally pushing him to make a really drastic choice. And that's where we leave it. He created a medicine that easily turns into a highly dangerous drug. Stick with me here, you are about to see a mastermind build an absolute empire. He used a totally shady tactic, promising illegal black market goods to lure every thug straight into his pharmacy. But his poor dad, completely clueless. The old man just served everyone with a pure heart. Slowly but surely, that sketchy vibe faded away, turning the shop into a super welcoming hotspot. Word of their amazing service spread like wildfire. Business absolutely boomed because they kept things 100% honest and clean. But here's the thing. Thomas knew those dark past decisions would never just vanish into thin air. Consumed by heavy guilt for tricking his own father, he swore to spend forever making things right. Skip ahead years later. Now heading the Balulin Trading Company, he finally hit merchant ranker status. An elite appraiser actually nominated him for this, even though Thomas insisted he was way too unqualified. She stared him down, asking if he was rejecting the spot just because of his old underworld ties. She laid it all out. She knew his dark secrets, but also saw the massive fortunes he dumped into rehab centers trying to buy back his soul. To her, Thomas Balulin had already paid his dues in full and completely deserved the backing. The appraiser challenged him to take his righteous mission and spread it everywhere. Growing up made him finally realize something huge. His dad was an absolute legend who only ever ran an honest business. So, Thomas shook on it. He would take the ranker title, but promised to turn himself in once he erased his past mistakes for good. She totally agreed to those terms, crowning him officially as the number 33 merchant. Now pay close attention as we jump back to the present. He hands our hero some seriously game-changing medicine. This master plan has to work. By flooding the streets with legit cures, they can crush the black market entirely. If he pulls off this epic move, his massive guilt might finally disappear. Deeply moved, our boy promises to visit Thomas again. The merchant just smiles, saying he will be waiting if they both survive this mess. Meanwhile, over in another zone, Setsu Aurelia is locked in deadly combat with the Ouroboros member. Seeing her blade bounce right off him, she figures out she has to smash his iron wall defense first. This guy was rocking a super advanced Republic technique that completely solidified Prana. He mocked her lack of knowledge, but Setsu fired right back. This is a battlefield, not a classroom. and she would crack his code. Sneaking around for a blind spot strike, she gets totally countered when he predicts it and shoots, barely grazing her. The villain casually explains that her prana flow is painfully obvious, and his signature fluidity technique is the absolute perfect hard counter. To him, her energy is just a boring joke. Setsu realizes he is a specialist. His physical stats are total garbage, but his massive brain and cutting-edge technology make up for it. I know exactly what you are thinking. It is time to brute force this annoying armor into dust. Pumping massive amounts of raging prana into her blade, she shifts into the Sword Saint style, third stance, Destructive Fury. This is a move of pure absolute carnage. Because it wrecks the weapon, the golden rule is striking with the blunt edge only. After all, when your sword is bursting with prana, it crushes instead of slicing. That makes it the one and only heavy impact Saint technique. Fully charged up, she triggers the Fury skill, slamming Gem with a devastating Sword Saint strike. A massive explosion kicks up a blinding dust cloud. But suddenly, a rogue shot blasts straight out of the smoke, ripping across her shoulder once again. Gem steps out of the rubble, his broken robotic circuits totally exposed. He laughs off the heavy hit, claiming it was not enough to finish him. Seeing those freaky wires, Setsu demands to know his true form. Gem totally ignores her, muttering that she might make a pretty decent lab rat. He geeks out over how her weird, flawed version of the Sword Saint style makes her the absolute perfect test subject for his research. Setsu finally admits she is just a failed disciple, and right on cue, the real deal arrives. Lo Tulie steps onto the scene, leaking so much insane prana that the cyborg instantly locks on. Ranked at 1089, the hero coldly declares he is ending this now. Gem Conrad, the number 2 prana scholar, just smirks and points his deadly weapon right at our boy. Lo tells Setsu to fall back immediately, warning her that right now she is nothing but dead weight. Trust me, you and I are about to witness the true Sword Saint style. She retreats and the real showdown begins. Alright, stick with me, we're jumping right back in. Lo was healed, but his prana was completely drained. He had to scrap this robot fast. He rushed straight in, but the enemy threw up a shield at lightning speed, blending flow and defensive skills like an absolute pro. Lo instantly noticed something terrifying. Zem wasn't just dodging. This guy was reading his moves before they even happened. No time to hesitate. Lo unleashed a wild flurry of gale cuts, but the robot just tanked it with barriers. This annoying gadget called a cellular beetle was auto-blocking Lo's prana. But hey, even high-tech shields run out of juice if hit enough. Knowing its defenses were cracking, the robot didn't wait around. It raised its weapon and blasted a massively overpowered prana beam right at him. Right mid-attack, Zem casually drops a compliment. He called Lo a solid fighter, specifically comparing him to a descendant of Babel. Our hero just stood there totally confused. Babel, he had absolutely zero clue what that meant. The robot explained it connected straight back to the island of the gods. He offered to spill all the secrets, but there was a catch involving Vantile. Lo had to join the Ouroboros crew. Zem flat out told him he was weak right now, but his potential was off the charts. Because of that raw potential, he had finally earned the right to hear the actual truth. To prove he wasn't lying, Zem decided to drop a massive lore bomb connecting the island of the gods straight to Lo himself. Now watch closely, because you and I are about to get some crazy answers. Zem revealed the Tulie clan never actually existed. Way back in the day, a group called the Babel clan stepped up. They hated the evil things the island of the gods did, so they waged all-out war. Sadly, Babel lost the war. To avoid getting wiped out entirely, they split up and hid as 9 different tribes. The Tulie village was one of those tribes. That meant Lo carried Babel blood. Zem added that the ancient war actually dealt huge damage to the island. Because of that bloody history, the island of the gods is absolutely terrified of Babel's bloodline, so they hunt them down mercilessly. And yep, that was the real reason Lo's peaceful village got completely destroyed. His ancestors lost, scattered away, and eventually built Tulie village from scratch. Everything suddenly clicked. This exact story matched an old bedtime legend his dad used to tell him. Lo wasn't born yesterday. Refusing to blindly trust anyone, he asked a simple question. If this was true, what evil stuff was the island actually doing? Zem played the classic villain card. No spoilers until you join my side. But he promised the dark atrocities were still happening right now. Zem wrapped up his pitch, pointing out the obvious. Lo's ranking jumps meant he was clearly trying to reach that forbidden island. By now, Lo had to realize that even with extra lives, he couldn't survive that journey alone. Zem basically asked why keep fighting these pointless battles. Honestly, Lo knew his enemies were always way out of his league, so dying multiple times was expected. So he looked right at Zem Conrad and admitted it. Calling his fights meaningless really wasn't wrong. But Lo had one final question. Why recklessly derail an entire train? Zem's answer, just a little test to measure the kid's combat level. Now I know what you're thinking. Deal with the devil, no way. Lo declared Zem was just as evil as the island. To our guy, tossing innocent lives away like garbage is the ultimate form of pure evil. He flat out refused the offer. They would never be teammates. Zem just scoffed, giving the classic villain excuse that sacrifices are totally needed for the greater good. Done talking to a stubborn fool, the robot raised its gun and fired a lethal blast. Shifting its barriers, it coldly threatened Lo. Time to teach this kid a very harsh lesson. But right then, a memory flashed. Lo remembered the brutal cut Setsu Aurelia left on his shoulder. The lesson, pure, unadulterated brute force, solves everything. Message received loud and clear. He instantly activated his Ruin Fury technique. The attacks slammed together, causing a massive energy explosion. Riding that shockwave, Lo twisted his body and launched a devastating upward slash. Ruin Fury had surprisingly destructive power, but there was a catch. It was totally useless if the robot stayed far away. Realizing this Sword Saint style was completely broken, Lo doubled down. He unleashed a second, even wilder Ruin Fury right at the metal freak. Seeing that deadly shockwave flying at him, Zem panicked hard. He spammed defensive shields, but they just shattered like glass one by one. The defenses were crumbling. Right then, Zem suddenly recalled a warning the Nidus had given him earlier. The terrifying realization hit him. The true master of the Sword Saint style, vibrating on a totally different level of power, was standing right there. The blast connected, blowing the robot to absolute pieces. With the enemy totally wrecked, Lo calmly sheathed his blade. Breathing a huge sigh of relief, Luke and Setsu Aurelia ran up, totally hyped about his win. So what do you and I make of this crazy ending? Even without a body, the robot head kept talking, completely freaking Setsu Aurelia out. Zem sneered that the evaluator would understand this mess. Jumping in, Luke explained the whole creepy phenomenon was actually tied to Prana control. Turns out this metallic freak was just a remote-controlled puppet. Turns out this guy was just a terminal connected to a main body using insanely advanced Republic of Aereo tech. The robot actually congratulates Lo, but trust me, you and I are about to see things get crazier. Lo has a ton of questions, but first things first. He orders Jem to stop the train, throwing that earlier promise right back in his metallic face. But of course, the rusty bucket suddenly has convenient amnesia. He casually adds that stopping is pointless anyway, the train is literally derailing right now, but there's a genius mechanic on board to save them. Luke jumps in, confirming this crazy ride is heading straight for Aereo. That place is basically the holy grail of Prana tech, which perfectly explains all these elite rankers hanging around. Jem smirks, saying this fight was surprisingly fun, but his connection is about to bounce to a completely different terminal any second. Not missing a beat, Lo grills him about the island of the gods and all the messed up atrocities that went down. Why? He demands answers about the Babel clan's history, desperately asking if his sister Yuna is alive and if the victims wiped out by the island are surviving somewhere. The robot just laughs it off, claiming those secrets are locked behind the master plan of Ouroboros. And since our boy absolutely refuses to join their creepy club, his lips are totally sealed. But he leaves a chilling warning, knowing the truth would drag Lo straight into absolute soul-crushing despair. With that, Jem logs off, teasing that if Lo keeps hunting the island, they'll definitely cross paths again somewhere down the line. Cut to somewhere else, the main body wakes up pretty smug about the data he just snagged. He confirms Lo Tulie's skills are still super unpolished, exactly as predicted. Still, he figures it's only a matter of time before the kid finally connects with Babel. Following the leader's exact script, he decides to keep watching from the shadows and gather more intel before their next showdown. But watch closely, a swordswoman suddenly rips his head clean off. Even as a severed head, he ironically jokes that today is just one of those days where he keeps losing his mind. This badass pink-haired woman roasts his zero survival instincts, asking if he's getting lazy in those fake Prana bodies. The robot just asks who she is. She ignores him with another question. Scanning her wild Prana, he initially guesses she's some heavy hitter from the Babel clan. But wait, he quickly realizes she's actually rocking the Tulie tribe's signature energy. Surprised, she smirks and asks how he knew. Instantly, she flares up this massively overpowered green Prana that looks exactly like Lo's aura. The raw energy is so insane, the ground literally starts quaking. She steps up coldly, asking if this metal freak dared to lay even one finger on Lo Tulie. The puppet realizes something terrifying. As a Babel descendant, this lady is way closer to her absolute peak potential than Van Tulie ever was. It suddenly clicks in his head. There are exactly 2 dark reasons why humans get abducted to the island of the gods. She casually asks if his real body is hiding there, though she obviously already knows the truth. Using a regressive trace, she exposes his secret. He actually turned his real body into pure energy, dumping his physical flesh to scatter his consciousness all over the globe. Seeing his shock over her accuracy, she smirks. You saw that coming, right? I mean, he already knows pulling off crazy stuff like this is totally possible, using Babel's insane power. She drops the bomb. She's here to execute the Prana scholar and immediately fires up a deadly Tulie tribe enchantment. Jem Contrad suddenly panics, realizing his massive mistake. This human literally possesses the cheat code ability to permanently delete parts of his actual existence. In a desperate final move, he forces his cellular visor into autonomous mode, just to beam an urgent SOS to the leader. His final warning: the island of the gods just secured an incredibly dangerous new weapon, this pink-haired woman. Boom. She finishes the spell, coldly declaring that death comes for anyone defying the gods, completely erasing the robot from reality once and for all. Meanwhile, back at the Ario Republic's massive central station, our hero squad successfully drops off the merchant Thomas Bellelin in one piece. Lo notices the guy is actually acting genuine for once, a massive shock, considering he's a shady merchant ranker, used to drowning in corruption. Thomas sincerely thanks the crew, straight up admitting he'd be totally dead meat right now if they hadn't covered his back. He promises a massive payout. Knowing Lo cares way more about climbing ranks than money, Thomas swears he'll hook him up nicely at his shop. Lo and Setsu just exchange looks, agreeing this dude is weirdly confusing, but deep down he really isn't half bad. Finally, they step into the Republic of Ario proper, and man, this place totally lives up to the hype. Since this nation runs on cutting-edge Prana, Luke mentions he's a regular visitor getting his office gear directly from the Republic. Setsu's also been here before for hardcore advanced tech training. Lo looks around, totally mind-blown. It's nothing like the Kingdom of Var. First stop, the certification office to update those shiny rankings. Luke saw her true power. Ready to see what's next. Alright, stick with me here. We are jumping right back in as Setsu gets her ranking sorted. She already finished the train paperwork, fast-tracking everything. First up on the board is Lo Tulie. He jumps from rank 1089 all the way to 924 triple digits. Finally, though, he expected an even bigger leap. Luke is quick to explain that hitting triple digits instantly is an insanely impressive feat. He makes it clear that most rankers take anywhere from 1 to 10 years hitting that exact milestone. This promotion proves that the raw talent of Lo is totally genuine. Right after that, the ranking of Setsu Aurelia rockets up to 188. She is absolutely thrilled. Knowing their goodbyes are coming fast, Setsu mentions her next destination. She is heading to the birthplace of the sword style, where the first swordmaster trained. She points out that crossing those steep mountains will be tough, but catching a flight from there makes everything way easier. Before heading out, she drops a massive rumor. A doll was just spotted inside the Holy Land. Her big plan, begging to become his disciple. And honestly, even if he says no, she just wants to stick nearby to soak up his legendary combat experience. Setsu then asks Lo Tulie if he has a message for Lord Adal. His response: just tell him that he is making steady, solid progress. After they finally part ways, Luke confidently states that they will absolutely cross paths again. Because in this crazy world of rankers, records get smashed every single day. Eventually, they are going to need each other to survive again. Now that it is just the two of them, Luke suggests focusing on their main city objective, getting the Prana of Lo properly checked out. To pull that off, they march straight into the National Research Institution, the ultimate hub for world-class students. She feels totally confident that someone inside will know exactly how Lo should use his Prana. Now, pay close attention to this part. Her target is the number 3 Prana scholar, the great teacher. Sure, rumors say he is super selfish, but his crazy skills are undeniably famous. Walking into the research center, they immediately bump into a completely stressed out receptionist. She drops a bomb on them. Getting a simple appointment with the great teacher might take an entire year. Turns out, he just started some bizarre new research project, completely booking his schedule solid. Classic Republic behavior, right? This place is literally obsessed with non-stop research. Not backing down, Luke steps up. She yells that negotiations are for professional human certifiers, and she is getting them a meeting with this professor right now. While Luke argues her heart out at the front desk, a frantic lab coat guy runs straight at Lo. He flat out tells the young ranker that he is standing in his way. The stressed scientist explains the professor is running another insane project. Running completely out of energy, he begs Lo to dump some prana into a nearby containment device. The basic plan was simple release, just enough juice while they carefully manage the glass to prevent it from shattering. But when Lo actually pushes his green prana inside, the sheer energy is so incredibly massive that scientists start screaming at him to stop. Sadly, it is way too late. Boom. The containment unit shatters, flooding the room with prana. Right on cue, the great teacher himself appears, lured in by the massive power surge. He demands to know whose aura that is, and the scientists point right at Lo. But the professor ignores the volume. He says the most mind-blowing part is the vibrating purity of the prana, something he has never seen in his entire life. Completely intrigued, he introduces himself to Lo. He is Newman Leaner, the number 3 prana scholar, the great teacher. Meanwhile, Luke finally finishes her intense negotiation. Super annoyed that Lo just wandered off, she tracks him down in the lab, proudly announcing she secured an appointment with the great teacher for exactly 6 months from now. And I know you are laughing at this. She finally realizes Lo Tulie is already sitting down, casually chatting with the professor. When Newman officially introduces himself, Luke, who completely failed to recognize him earlier, practically faceplants in utter shock. After picking her jaw off the floor, she asks if he can analyze the prana of Lo, since literally nowhere else could do it. That even includes the elite appraisal office of the Veeder Kingdom. They found his readings completely impossible to measure. Professor Newman smiles, explaining he actually developed those appraisal office prana measurement services. But those standard machines were heavily simplified just for cheap mass-market production. However, using the ultra-advanced prototype sitting right here in his lab, they can totally handle this analysis. He then orders Lo Tulie to activate his ability, and our boy happily obliges. Lo triggers his tribal enchantment instantly, making a massive wave of brilliant green prana explode out of his body. The Grand Professor just stands there watching, completely hypnotized by the sheer volume of raw energy. A few minutes later, Lo steps out of the measurement capsule and Luke happily congratulates him on surviving. Ready to drop the results, the professor explains they found something weird. The prana purity of Lo Tulie is heavily fluctuating. He breaks it down clearly. Higher prana purity is always better, massively boosting the overall effectiveness of his combat abilities. Purity normally improves through training, but for Lo, it is spiking irregularly. So what do you and I make of this? Professor Newman is about to explain it. Stick with me. The professor says these energy waves actually change shape the second the ability turns on. Basically, Lo's prana is acting like a living thing. It's trying to upgrade its own purity completely by itself. Wild right. Our guy finally gets it. His powers are literally evolving on their own, but right now they are still totally incomplete. So what happens when his prana hits 100%? The scientist also measures his total raw energy capacity. Hearing the results, Luke totally drops her jaw. Did he seriously hit third place overall? Yep, he did. The confirmation leaves her absolutely speechless at his power. If she had found him a year ago, he would already rule the world. That impossible dream of reaching the Isle of the Gods, suddenly very real. Super hyped Luke rushes to update his rank. While she is basically jumping for joy, the dude barely even reacts. The Grand Professor tells her she got lucky. Analyzing power this absurdly huge by himself would have taken literally forever. He mutters that things would be way easier if Jen Contra was still around, dropping the name of the guy who totally backstabbed him. Recognizing the name, our hero presses the doc for details on Jen. He refuses to let a single clue about the Isle of the Gods escape. But the Grand Professor sighs. There is not much left to say. Jen used to be an incredible assistant, a pure genius who matched his speed in the lab and even beat him in the official rankings. But then, tragedy struck. Jen lost his older brother and just vanished completely. Professor Newman wraps it up there. He tells our hero to come back tomorrow to finish analyzing this crazy energy. Lo thanks the old man. Later, chilling at the station hotel, Luke tries to process the fact that Jen worked for the professor. She realizes Ouroboros is still a massive mystery. Until they track down Jen, they will never figure out what connects this shady villain group. They are hoping these test results finally explain why those creeps targeted Lo originally. Both of them want to reach the Isle of the Gods. And Lo desperately needs to know why Ouroboros wants to go there too. Out of nowhere, a fairy breaches the professor's lab. He snaps at her immediately. He spent 70 years on pure research, so he has zero cash for some random little thief. But she smirks. They do not want money. They just want his huge brain. She drops a bomb. Jen is dead. And apparently they used to work together. Now pay attention. She demands Newman replaces Jen, claiming it is for the glory of Ouroboros. Meanwhile, a warrior from the Tulie tribe sneaks in to rescue the doctor. But wait. The lab is completely empty. His coffee cup is still totally full. And worse, clear signs of a massive struggle. The next morning, Luke and Lo walk into absolute chaos. They grab the panicked staff, demanding to know what just happened. The scientists confirm the nightmare. The professor got kidnapped. The wrecked room proved it was no accident. No one knew who took him, but they had one ace up their sleeve. A tiny tracker hidden right inside his glasses. They originally used it because the old man always zoned out and wandered off like a confused ghost. But right now, this is a straight-up rescue mission. I know what you and I are thinking. Time for action. Our duo decides to save Newman themselves. They get geared up with a tactical lens. It is this high-tech gadget that visually tracks prana flows and pinpoints the doctor's exact location. The tracker leads them straight to a creepy abandoned house. Stepping inside, they instantly spot fresh boot prints tracking across the floor. A second later, a bizarre sound echoes out, followed by aggressive energy flaring up inside. Boom. They are suddenly face to face with a whole pack of wild pranics attacking instantly. Lo moves like lightning, dodging the hit and saving Luke. He notices these freaks are not being controlled remotely. No external energy connections. They are just running wild, exactly like the possessed receptionist. A multiplying monster army would normally be scary. But to our overpowered hero, these are just dumb puppets. 0 threat level. He charges up his explosive sword with pure power. One devastation technique later, half the puppets are absolute toast. A massive horde of enemies, but Lo, not even blinking. Meanwhile, Luke scans the area. Her lens picks up a weird Prana signal creeping from behind a super suspicious door. They charge down that path immediately. Lo pumps raw energy straight into his legs, sprinting at absolute breakneck speed. The puppets start firing, so what do you and I think happens next? Alright, you and I are jumping right back into the chaos. The boys manage to dodge, spotting a door down the hall. But then, the walls literally start closing in to crush them. Luke whips out his lens to find a weak spot. Wait, these walls aren't even mechanical. Nope, they are completely wrapped in writhing prana. With 0 time to think, Lo Tulie draws his Nirvana sword. Boom, he unleashes a massive slash, blowing the entire area to pieces. Right through the smoke she appears. She smiles, noticing her little web totally caught these unwanted guests. Say hello to Luvia, straight from the Ouroboros faction. She casually welcomes Lo Tulie, claiming Jen Conrad told her all about him. But the Wild Ranker spots her fake fairy wings instantly. He demands to know her connection to Jen. Luvia sighs. Same organization. Then she drops a massive bomb, saying she was devastated by his passing. Wait, Jen Conrad is dead. That is brand new information to our guy. Turns out, right as Jen died, he released a cellular beetle that flew straight to her. That creepy little bug is how she learned Lo Tulie even existed. Honestly, she was completely shocked he managed to track this place down. Our hero just shrugs. He simply followed the transmitter's signal. He argues that the Great Professor title is not just for show. Obviously, the guy keeps a tracker on him for life or death emergencies. Yeah, right. Luke immediately corrects him. They only tagged the professor because he constantly wanders off. Whatever. Lo Tulie grips his sword, demanding Professor Newman back right now. But Luvia smirks. No can do until his little purpose is fulfilled. Right then, her wings start glowing with an intense, blinding light. Now pay attention here. Sparkling dust fills the air, totally locking his sword inside its sheath. She gives a chilling warning. Jen never actually lost to him, so do not underestimate Ouroboros. Lo strains to pull his blade, but some heavy invisible force totally paralyzes his arm. It feels exactly like those walls trying to crush him into paste earlier. Her prana is literally seeping right into his weapon. Determined to snap out of it, he screams, erupting with an absolutely ridiculous surge of raw energy. Luke watches in awe. His friend's energy flows like a high-level skill, but he has not even activated a single system ability. With one final earth-shaking roar, Lo forces his raw prana outward, shattering the spell. He rips the sword out and points it dead at her face. Eyes wide in pure shock, Luvia actually apologizes for taking him so lightly. But then she flips the script. Offering a deal, she admits she cannot return Newman yet, unless Lo does her one little favor. Naturally, Luke interrupts them right there. He demands proof of life first. No blind negotiations or the deal is totally off. Fair enough. She opens a door and boom. The Great Professor is sitting there grinning like crazy, fully surrounded by shiny new tech. Before anyone can even speak, the old man yells that he is busy with the best research of his life. He tells them to get lost and slams the door. You saw that too, right? Luke actually wonders if this was even a kidnapping. Still, Lo decides they absolutely cannot just leave him here. Luvia quickly swears Newman is only stepping in for Jen and will be treated like absolute royalty. Honestly satisfied with that answer, our hero finally asks for the deal's actual terms. Luvia drops the details. The guy who took out Jen, a deadly assassin straight from the island of the gods. Her little favor. She wants Lo to hunt this assassin down. Since this lead perfectly matches up with his own revenge checklist, he instantly accepts the mission. They shake on it, sealing this super weird alliance. Then Luvia breaks down the master plan. She knows enemies are already tracking her energy signature. It is only a matter of time before backup arrives. So she set up a trap. She dumped a massive chunk of her energy in a completely different ruin. Luke instantly catches on to her genius strategy. Since she is a real fairy, she can shape her prana into sparkling dust, totally throwing off anyone tracking her. This is wild. It is his first time seeing the fairy tribe, a totally elusive race that never even shows up on the official power rankings. Luvia shrugs, saying her people literally do not care about human drama. That is exactly why she hides her wings and uses false names. Getting curious, Luke runs a quick system search. Boom, he finds an old record from 3 years ago. She was literally ranked #1 in prana control right before she vanished mid-mission and got wiped from the board. She brushes it off like nothing, claiming she just needed an ID card. Plus, her entire tribe is naturally overpowered at energy control anyway. Sure, she has talent, but she admits her sister is on a completely different level. Honestly, she hopes her sister joined the Ouroboros crew too. Anyway, back to the ambush. She guarantees the assassin will totally fall for the shiny dust trap. Lo nods. They need to set up in the shadows and wait. The fairy hands over the coordinates, promising the target will show up tonight. Later, our guy spots a hooded figure entering the ruins. Trust me, you will want to see this. Alright, let's jump right in. Acting fast, he pins his sword to the figure's neck, screaming freeze. But this woman, she reacts instantly. She pulls her own blade, blasting Lo backward with one crazy swift move. But as he recovers, he notices she just completely stops moving. He sees the opening and charges straight in for an attack. But the assassin blocks it, gripping her sword hard. Still, she's clearly struggling to move her body like an invisible force is holding her down. He rips off her hood and our guy is absolutely speechless. It's Yuna, his very own sister. She immediately bolts and he chases after her in a total panic, screaming that he's Lo Tulie, her brother. Yuna jumps off the building, sprinting across the rooftops like a ninja. Our hero burns Prana just to keep up. He is 100% sure it's her. He would never mistake his sister. Using his deflection skill, Lo pulls off this massive leap, way higher than hers, and lands right in front, cutting off her path. He demands to know why she's running, but silence. When Lo pushes for answers, she activates their tribe's special enchantment. He instantly recognizes the aura. It's Heavenly Spirit Descent, his exact same signature move. Knowing this, power drains fast, he actually feels bad for her. But he decides he has to pin her down until the buff expires. Lo uses the Lotus Flower technique to block her strikes and the sibling showdown officially begins. Mid-fight, he realizes her skill isn't fading at all. It hits him she is literally using the perfected version of the Heavenly Spirit Descent. But then, out of nowhere, Yuna starts falling off the roof. "Don't blink here," he yells, wait, trying to grab her hand, but she just vanishes into thin air. In that second, the horrible truth hits him. The assassin from the Island of the Gods, who killed Jen, was Yuna. Furious, he screams in pure agony, exploding with raw prana. The fairy pops up to welcome him but immediately realizes from his face that everything went wrong. Seeing red, Lo Tulie literally chokes her and demands to know what she was after. He screams, demanding if she already knew he was hunting Yuna. Luia swears she has no clue, saying he just found the target she warned him about. He snaps back that the assassin is family. A childhood friend stolen by the Island of the Gods years ago. The whole thing leaves him completely shattered. Luia insists it was a crazy coincidence, and the odds of this happening were practically zero. Realizing he lost his cool, our guy backs off and apologizes for hurting the little fairy. But the girl hits him with cold hard facts. Yuna is a murderer. He argues his sister would never do that. But the fairy makes him question if she's changed and if that innocent girl is truly gone. Our hero starts spiraling hard. He nervously asks what she plans to do when they catch Yuna. The fairy drops a bomb. She wanted revenge, but cancelled it because she knew it would break Lo Tulie's heart. Lo calls out her hypocrisy, saying she threatens people all the time but suddenly cares about avenging comrades. Luia explains that Ouroboros is her actual family, just a bunch of weaklings who have to stick together to survive. They are total outcasts with zero place in this world. That's exactly why they commit crimes freely. Crazy logic, right? But without crime, their dreams die. Just then, the walls shift, leaving everyone completely shocked. The fairy wonders if the crazy professor built something new. Opening the door, she finds his stuff scattered everywhere. But the old man is partying, screaming that he finally finished his ultimate masterpiece. He brags it was super easy, holding up a metal device. Jen's theory worked perfectly. By colliding prana waves and totally destroying the target, he built a literal prana nullifier. The professor flexes his ultimate creation, the Heavenfall Wedge. This is the exact trump card the fairy needed to crush the Island of the Gods. Luia thanks the old man immensely. He brushes it off, saying Jen's blueprints were flawless. For him, this was just one last project with his foolish apprentice. He says it felt like he was finally talking to Jen again after all these years. Right after, the fairy asks Lo Tulie to team up. The biggest threat now, someone destroying their shiny new Heavenfall Wedge. And to stop that, Jen's killer has to be eliminated. The prana traps Luia set up are snapping one by one. Lo's childhood friend is definitely on her way. She desperately needs his help to ambush the assassin, promising to only knock Yuna out, not kill her. Knowing he can't stop his sister alone, he agrees. They meditate, and trust me, you'll want to watch closely as hooded Yuna approaches. Alright, you and I are about to uncover a seriously dark secret about the Isle of the Gods. They literally brainwash human captives, turning them into mindless soldiers. Luvia drops the bomb. Yuna was definitely brainwashed too. And if her mission is deleting any threat to the island, our genius professor is now a massive target since his weapon-making brain is a huge problem. Our guy flashes back. Jen had warned him about the island's barbaric acts. Was this twisted kidnapping and weaponizing exactly what he meant? But Luvia shakes her head. Oh no, the 6 sins of this place run way deeper than that. Just then, Luke shouts out, "They finally made it to the ruin. Time is up." The two brace themselves for the ultimate showdown with Yuna. His sister drops in, leaking insane amounts of prana and slashes straight at Luvia. Our guy instantly deflects the attack with his own blade. But man fighting his childhood friend hurts. Luvia laughs it off. Too bad, because he is officially on her side now. The fairy tosses some magic powder, chucking glowing rocks at Yuna. But the girl slices through them like absolute butter. Yeah, now the fairy gets why they made her a soldier. Seeing an opening, he vanishes behind Yuna. Sword Saint style active, he unleashes Gale Slash, dropping a massive stone pillar right on her. Now here is where you and I need to watch closely. Yuna blocks the pillar, but it is a total distraction, so he can land a devastation blast blade directly on her back. Boom, a direct hit packed with a massive surge of pure prana. The blast shatters the pillar, but Yuna somehow perfectly dodges. She instantly charges back in, and their steel blades violently clash. Locked in combat, he screams for Luvia to use her strongest magic even if it hits him too. Hearing his call, the fairy starts chanting, summoning a bunch of glowing orbs. Using the ruin debris, she builds a giant rock hand to literally swat Yuna like a bug. But Yuna just explodes with prana, shattering the hand completely. Immediately after the siblings both activate Heavenly Spirit Descent, they trade an insane flurry of sword strikes perfectly, blocking every single hit. He refuses to let his prana leak, keeping the skill active, knowing Yuna can do the same. He finally notices their glitchy skills have actually completely stabilized. Meanwhile, Yuna realizes Lo is copying her just by watching her prana. The guy is a total genius. They trade more vicious strikes, locked in an absurd magic clash. With Heavenly Spirit Descent active, both are literally invincible. Watching from afar, Luke realizes absolutely nobody can interfere in this monster fight. At this point, the battlefield is basically their own private world of destruction. I know what you are thinking, this clash could last forever. But suddenly, he notices her technique acting strange, and his consciousness gets violently pulled away. In the blink of an eye, he wakes up in Tulie village. Completely confused, he asks who is there. A mysterious guy appears, calling himself Nimrod and welcoming him. He explains, this place is Babel, a secret dimension built to challenge the gods. Nimrod reveals Babel is home to their mythical ancestors. The souls of the Babel tribe are literally woven into the absolute depths of this wild world. When someone reaches peak prana purity, their mind gets a VIP invite straight to this place. And that ridiculously pure prana is exactly why Lo is standing here. Nimrod mentions Lo has beautifully colored prana. He adds that a young woman with that exact same color visited here at his age. Our guy instantly knows it is Yuna. He asks if Nimrod met his sister, and the guy nods. She came seeking ultimate power, but he remembers her deeply sad eyes. Deep down, she never really wanted that kind of absolute strength. Pointing at a glowing light in the sky, Nimrod reveals that is the god-tier power he meant. Generations of their ancestors shattered their own souls just to protect it. Anyone connected to Babel can actually borrow a tiny fraction of this insane energy. But the catch, if you fail, you become a permanent part of this world. This is Reborn Genesis, the ultimate art to reset the human world. Nimrod says gods are terrified of it, actively hunting Babel descendants to stop them. He looks right at our hero. Do you need power? Take whatever you want. Zero hesitation. He desperately needs that strength to save the sister he loves, begging Nimrod to lend him that absolute raw power right now. Nimrod grants the power but warns his body will shatter under the full load. You and I just witnessed something epic. Trust me, what comes next is wild. Stick with me here, because if he did that, Babel would completely vanish. Our hero starts pulling in all that hope energy, and his body just erupts with massive amounts of glowing prana. Over in reality, Luke's jaw drops at the sheer volume of aura exploding from him. The protagonist's intense light blinds the whole area, while the panicked fairy questions if they are actually safe. Luke, though, is pretty sure they are perfectly fine. Lo's techniques only wipe out actual threats to his life, and right now, they are definitely not targets. The only person taking the hit is Yuna. Pure terror takes over as her skills get completely erased one after another. She figures out Lo actually linked up with Babel. Leah completely gets that Yuna could never handle absorbing that insane level of power. You and I both saw this coming. When Lo actually gets serious, he becomes absolutely unstoppable. But once the job is done, he powers down entirely. Her skills completely wiped, Yuna instantly collapses, and our guy sprints to her side. But the exact second Lo gently touches Yuna's face, her eyes snap open and she violently attacks him. Right before she can slash him with her blade, Luvia suddenly jumps in, launching an aura strike that hits Yuna point blank. That crazy move literally melts Yuna's prana away, and seconds later, she totally blacks out again from severe energy drain. Leah then casually mentions the one annoying flaw of her skill, having to lock in the exact target coordinates first. That's why she can only pull this off when an enemy is completely cornered, stuck in place, and totally unable to dodge her sudden attack. You probably think the drama is over, and Lo Tulie can finally talk to his sister, right? Yeah, no. Luvia immediately crushes his hopes, coldly dropping the bomb that he'll be waiting a few more years. She casually announces she's handing Yuna straight to Ouroboros, ordering Lo to back off for 3 solid years before even trying to speak to her. For those 3 years, Luvia intends to experiment on her. Yuna surviving the island of the gods makes her an insanely rare test subject. Hearing this garbage, our guy finally gets it. Ouroboros is a twisted organization that literally does not care who they hurt. He heavily regrets being so blind from the start and instantly announces their little temporary team-up is permanently cancelled. He declares he's taking Yuna back right now, and trust me, you and I do not want to miss this fight.